Part 86. I'm Really Immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Rusiahua. Chapter 876. In fact, except for the beginning of school, Lu Chang'an has not had a fight in school for a long time. It was nothing more than beating up a student union cadre of the college. From An Nuan's point of view, it was nothing. There were a lot of murders on university campuses, so fighting was nothing. Because of this, after the start of the new semester, the number of opposite sexes paying attention to An Nuan increased sharply, and many people were even more ready to make practical moves to pursue An Nuan. What attracts more attention to Lu Chang'an is the rumor that he blew up the famous martial arts gym in Junchatu during his senior year of high school. Some people didn't believe it at all, but some local students in Juncha strongly proved it to be true. However, it has aroused heated discussions in the school's karate and taekwondo circles, and the Muay Thai club has even announced that it wants to compete with Lu Chang'an. The Muay Thai club of Hunan University has a long history of preparation. As early as the beginning of the 21st century, students gathered together to exchange and study. However, when the Muay Thai club was planned to be established, it was rejected by the Federation of Students on the grounds that Muay Thai was too lethal and too dangerous. Healthy exercise suitable for college students' development and learning. This view lasted for a long time. It was not until the fitness craze took off in recent years that Muay Thai, as an excellent calorie-consuming sport, became more recognized and accepted by the public. The Muay Thai Club of Hunan University was finally approved to be established. But college students are young after all, and there is inevitably a strong gene of competitiveness in their blood. Looking at the popular taekwondo and karate clubs, the Muay Thai Club will inevitably want to find some opportunity to make its name known and suppress those in the karate and taekwondo clubs. Lu Chang'an didn't hear the news that the Muay Thai Club wanted to compete with him, because his social circle was limited and he had a reputation as a student master. Even if many people knew the news, they would not get in front of him and say, "Lu Chang'an, Muay Thai, the people in the club want to beat you up." Generally speaking, sparring means sparring, but many times sparring means I want to beat you up. By the way, I recently heard rumors that you beat up the counselor, and Nuan always pays special attention to news related to her boyfriend. Lu Chang'an's counselor is Jin Yanan. Could Lu Chang'an beat his cousin who wants to hang out with her every day? This rumor is naturally outrageous, but what is the truth behind the outrageous rumor? This is what An Nuan is concerned about. Just like many children said that they saw their father and mother fighting at night, with their father beating their mother, etc., everyone knows what the truth is. Could it be a similar situation when Lu Chang'an hits a counselor? The soft and delicate girl's body was lying on his back, with two straight calves swaying. Her socks and sneakers exuded a clean and moist feeling. Lu Chang'an smelled An Nuan's hair brushing against his face. Aroma, spanked her twice. Is this how you hit her? An Nuan Jiao was angry. You can only hit me like this. Sometimes, Lu Chang'an always likes to hit himself like this, but he can't be allowed to hit others. Isn't An Nuan's little volleyball game fun? An Nuan raised the volleyball in her hand and pressed it on Lu Chang'an's head. If the counselor has anything to beat, if I want to beat him, I'll beat the principal. Lu Chang'an really beat the principal, but that happened many years ago. If you hit the principal, you will really get fired. An Nuan chuckled. If you really get fired, I will ask you to be my sparring partner. Lu Chang'an thought about it and realized that this was not bad, but he was not going to be a sparring partner, he wanted to be a master. What master wouldn't like such a disciple who is easy to learn and use? Thinking back then, the Zhuzhu Fenglai sword sect recruited so many female disciples, wasn't it just for this reason? Otherwise, why not recruit male disciples? Male disciples greatly exceed female disciples in terms of physical strength and combat effectiveness. The two of them were chatting and laughing, and arrived in front of An Nuan's unit. What they didn't expect was that a young man was standing at the door of An Nuan's house, waiting. The young man was wearing a donkey brand down jacket, which was tightly wrapped. The weather in Juncha was a bit wet and cold, but this kind of clothing was still a bit exaggerated. It just matched his rather immature face, and it gave him a warm and cute feeling. The young man is in his early 20s, and he is dressed like a family boy. He leans on the door like a little puppy looking forward to being petted by its owner when he comes home. He was holding a warm lunchbox in both hands. When he saw Nuan, he opened his mouth and raised the warm lunchbox with a smile. His dark eyes seemed to shine because of a star named Nuan. He seemed to be completely invisible to Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an felt ignored, but he was holding Nuan's small volleyball in his hands, so he also smiled. Nuan, I personally cooked a pot of soup and brought it to you. Girls should drink more soup, especially athletes. Physical strain accumulates over time, and it won't work if you don't pay attention to maintenance, the young man said to Nuan with concern. Just one person was thrown over the wall, and another one was squatting at the door. Lu Chang'an felt that he still underestimated Nuan's charm. Although there were beauties like Qinyanan and Professor Lu in the school who were very eye-catching, and there were also rich ladies like Zhu Huntang, but for most people, the only beauty of the same level they are truly suitable to pursue is Nuan. Most people with normal minds would not pursue Qinyanan and Professor Lu. As for Zhu Huntang, it was not easy to get close to her. It seems that there may be more people pursuing Bai Hui. Lu Chang'an thought for a while and turned to look at Nuan. Nuan is carefully observing her boyfriend's expression. There are indeed more people pursuing her, which makes Nuan a little uneasy. She is inevitably worried that Lu Chang'an will feel irritable or think that she is a bit too solicitous. His name is Jin Ho. He is the son of Principal Jin. He started a company in his sophomore year and is now the sponsor of our Hunan University volleyball team, Nuan explained to Lu Chang'an in a low voice, I am not familiar with him at all. Many people are like this. It sounds nice to say that it is self-study, but in fact it often makes people feel inexplicable. Some people think that self-study is a sign of smoothness and maturity and an excellent social tool. Jin Ho's behavior can't be said to be self-conscious, it's just self-righteousness when he feels good about himself. Mr. Jin, my boyfriend is a caterer, so you won't have to worry about my maintenance, Nuan refused firmly. She knew very well that even if you were a little tactful about someone like Jin Ho, he wouldn't treat him like that. Take other people's rejection seriously. Marquis Jin then glanced at Lu Chang'an, and then said, I've done everything, and delivered it to your door personally. Just drink it this time, and my heart will not be in vain. Nuan shook his head repeatedly, how could this be the only time? Once there is one, there will be another. Nuan usually knows how to judge green tea. The usual method of these people is to grind your bottom line step by step, and they don't understand the principle of enough is enough. Hey, if someone can spend half a month selecting ingredients and spending a day by the fire making soup, I will definitely eat the pot. Seeing Nuan's resolute attitude, Jin Ho said with a smile. Lu Chang'an couldn't help but nodded. Why are you nodding? Nuan jumped off Lu Chang'an's back and pinched him. Don't be too proud. Jin Ho originally didn't intend to talk to Lu Chang'an, but Lu Chang'an nodded there, but suddenly Jin Ho found it difficult to suppress his anger. You can't keep a girl like Nuan at all, you will know later. Have you heard of the story of Zhong Huiyu and Huang Shuwen? After saying that, Jin Ho glanced at Nuan. Once, a sponsor was treating a guest and the volleyball team had a dinner. Nuan was also present. Jin Ho told this story meaningfully. The male and female protagonists in the story, Zhong Huiyu and Huang Shuwen, are also lovers in college. Zhong Huiyu is very beautiful and has a good figure. She is considered a school belle. Huang Shuwen also has very good grades in school, and Zhong Huiyu, they are both talented and beautiful, and everyone thinks they are a perfect match. Huang Shuwen became a civil servant after graduation, while Zhong Huiyu worked in an investment company as the president's secretary. Unlike many couples who break up after graduation, Huang Shuwen and Zhong Huiyu got married after graduation. Although the couple was not rich, they bought a house with a loan and lived a happy life. They are already stronger than most people. But they did not get out of the reality that most people could not get out of. As the careers of his former classmates flourished, Huang Shuwen gradually felt the gap. However, because Zhong Huiyu was deeply loved by the CEO, she gradually came into contact with the real upper-class society, especially the excellence and charm of the CEO. Even though she had no intention of cheating, she consciously or unconsciously compared her husband and her boss. In the end, Zhong Huiyu finally began to have an affair and had a lot of ambiguities with the president. However, Huang Shuwen cheated first and did not resist the temptation of a woman with evil intentions. Zhong Huiyu threw himself into the arms of his boss with peace of mind. In fact, whether Huang Shuwen cheated or not will not change the outcome. In the reality where desire and temptation are everywhere, a woman like Zhong Huiyu, without a pure and firm heart, cannot keep her marriage at all. Even if she with such a heart, many men who covet her can use various means to obtain her body first, and that heart will be slowly saturated with the color of desire. Marquis Jin looked at Lu Chang'an and said, "En Nuan knows the story? You can ask her to tell it." How similar is a person like Lu Chang'an to Huang Shuwen in the story? En Nuan held her boyfriend's hand, but the corners of her mouth slowly turned up. She maintained a certain degree of restraint towards Jin Ho, mainly because he talked about the volleyball team's sponsors, and she didn't want to let the volleyball team lose because of her. There was a problem with the team's sponsorship. However, Marquis Jin actually asked An Nuan to tell Lu Chang'an such a story, and An Nuan finally couldn't help but laugh. "Jin, have you ever thought that you are actually the one like Huang Shuwen? Just you, do you want me to be Zhong Huiyu? I suggest you take some brain tablets to sober up." Marquis Jin was stunned. He had never seen An Nuan be so sarcastic. He was the one who looked like Huang Shuwen. He was the most ridiculous person in the world. I recommend a masterpiece of urban rebirth, Sister Falling in Love with Me, also known as The Reborn Young Master, can be called a sacred book. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 877. When Jin Ho was in high school, he started doing business with his uncle. Relying on Principal Jin's relationship, his uncle's business naturally prospered. His uncle loved his nephew Jin Ho very much, and repeatedly said that his company would be handed over to Jin Ho sooner or later. Jin Ho gained a lot of knowledge with him, and Jin Ho entered the society earlier. After graduating from high school, Jin Ho did not go directly to college. Instead, he took a break from school and traveled abroad for 2 years. Later, he continued to attend college in China. When he founded the company in his sophomore year, he was actually a little older than his classmates in the same grade. He is older and has entered the society earlier. He also has his own company and is quite enviable among college students. Looking at the classmates in the ivory tower, Jin Ho inevitably has a vague sense of superiority. He also likes to show his experience and knowledge on various occasions. He often receives a lot of surprises and deafening exclamations. Looking at Jin Ho always finds the expressions of disbelief on his young and innocent classmates very interesting. En Nuan was present when Jin Ho told the story of Zhong Huiyu and Huang Shuwen. Jin Ho felt that the story he chose was very good. In fact, it was a nail he drove into En Nuan's heart. If En Nuan faces love one day, and realistic choices, this nail comes into play. Now En Nuan actually asked him to eat brain fragments. "You actually think he is the one who looks like Huang Shuwen? En Nuan, don't you think it's too much for you to talk like this?" Jin Ho still held the insulated lunchbox in his hand and looked at En Nuan with disappointment. "I'm making soup for you and waiting at your door in the middle of the night. Looking at the person who brought you nutritious soup after training. I didn't expect you to be such a mean person." I feel that a young man I don't know well is waiting at my door in the middle of the night, stalking and harassing me, which is very scary. I hope you can understand clearly that you are touched by doing these things, but in the eyes of others, it is completely different. Now that we've broken our skin, Nuan doesn't mind speaking more directly. Nuan is not the kind of person who won't refuse. In high school, she was very moved but could only refuse things she had done many times. Only those little green teas would vaguely keep boys who have a crush on them as backup, right? Or she might say we can only be friends, but she never refuses the care of those boys. Nuan is not that kind of person. She is not targeting anyone, she just summarizes her past experience. Leave a review. If you were someone who is good at tea talk, if you face Jinho's confession tonight, you would probably drink the soup, then ask others to take the bowl back and wash it, and remind the other person that although he likes it very much, drink it, but it's best not to give it away again in the future. When Jinho heard Nuan's words, blood rushed to his face. It turned out that Nuan could have said more harsh words. He raised his hand and smashed the insulated lunchbox on the ground. Lu Chang'an caught it. Both Jinho and Nuan were stunned for a moment. Jinho was surprised by Lu Chang'an's skill and reaction, but Nuan doubted that Lu Chang'an wanted to drink soup. An ordinary boyfriend would never drink the soup stewed by a boy who pursues his girlfriend, but is Lu Chang'an an ordinary boyfriend? Lu Chang'an held the insulated lunchbox in one hand and pointed at the door with the other, asking Nuan to go in first. Nuan wanted to see what Lu Chang'an was going to do, but she left first because Lu Chang'an couldn't suffer anyway. Jinho clenched his fists. Such a beautiful girl who could be called a stunning beauty was so mean to others, but she was gentle and well behaved in front of him. Lu Chang'an pointed to the door, and she left. If he patted her butt, she would have you learned how to cooperate obediently. Lu Chang'an opened the insulated lunchbox. Inside was a ceramic soup bowl with a plastic bowl lid that fit tightly on top. Even after Jinho smashed it just now, the soup inside didn't spill out at all. Pulling off the lid of the bowl, the aroma of the soup spread. Lu Chang'an took a sniff and said, "Not bad, the quality of chai zui gong jiao is pretty good." "Passable," Jinho sneered. Although he was a little surprised, the other party actually knew that this was chai zui gong jiao. Good isinglass is indeed an aristocratic ingredient, especially in coastal areas. In inland provinces like Junsha, many people may not even know about the existence and effectiveness of this kind of thing, let alone identifying the variety and quality of isinglass. This is just red-mouthed isinglass, not even white fish maw. It's not spider glue, house glue, money glue, or the like. How dare you say that you spent half a month selecting materials? Lu Chang'an smiled and said, "I'll take my mobile phone. On Dobayo, you can find isinglass of much better quality than yours in 3 seconds." Jinho couldn't help but blush, because even if he eats the gum, most people rarely eat it. What he said was a bit exaggerated, but from the time the order was placed to the arrival of the goods, it still took a few days, didn't it? But none of this is important. You just said that if someone spent half a month selecting ingredients and another day stewing the soup, would you even eat the bowl? Lu Chang'an did not throw Jinho over the wall, but that does not mean that he will let Jinho go so easily. Is there any reason to pursue a girl who has a boyfriend without being taught a lesson? Lu Chang'an is a reasonable person, and he will also implement the principles he insists on, instead of just thinking about it and talking about it. If Jinho is willing to argue with him, he is also willing to listen. That's right, Jinho nodded without knowing why. Then drink this bowl of soup first. Lu Chang'an handed the bowl over. What do you mean? Jinho couldn't understand. How could this person's behavior not be normal after just a short contact? Whether it was catching the soup bowl thrown away by Jinho, or letting him drink the soup now. You said yourself that if someone spends half a month selecting ingredients and a day stewing soup, you will eat even the bowl. Aren't you a human being? Just drink the soup you stewed with so much care. Lu Chang'an raised his hand again. Bowl. Crazy, Jinho resisted the urge to give Lu Chang'an a slap in the face and left. After all, Lu Chang'an was tall and powerful. There was no need for Jinho to fight with him. It would be safe to go back and find someone to teach him a lesson. He did this. She has a delicate body and expensive flesh, but if her skin gets scratched later, her mother will feel distressed just looking at her. Lu Chang'an reached out and grabbed Jinho, pinched his cheek, and poured the steaming soup into Jinho's mouth. Is there something wrong with these people's brains? Lu Chang'an always talked to them politely and repeatedly asked them to agree to his conditions, but they always refused to cooperate. Jinho only felt that the hot soup was scalding his entire mouth. He struggled wildly, but it only made his cheeks and neck painful. Lu Chang'an controlled him like he was holding an ant. Don't let it go to waste. Lu Chang'an carefully poured the soup for Jinho, fearing that he would miss a little. The red-mouthed isinglass was actually not cheap, much more expensive than the fish maw that Lu Chang'an ordered when eating hot pot. After finishing a large bowl of soup, Lu Chang'an threw Jinho on the ground. Jinho felt that his entire throat, esophagus, and stomach were burned and uncomfortable, but fortunately, even the insulated lunchbox was not at the same temperature as when the fire was just turned off. After feeling uncomfortable for a while, you won't really get burned. It's just that this Lu Chang'an is almost infinitely powerful. Jinho secretly regretted it. Others have also mentioned that An Nuan's boyfriend seems to be very difficult to deal with. But Jinho's own father is the principal, so how can he take the students of Hunan University seriously? Jinho pressed the ground and was about to get up, but Lu Chang'an lifted his leg and stepped on it. Jinho was horrified to find that Lu Chang'an actually broke the ceramic bowl into pieces, and then crushed the pieces into crumbs in his palms. Eat even the bowl. Jinho remembered what he said and looked at Lu Chang'an with trembling teeth. What do you want to do? Don't you say you want to eat the whole bowl? I suspect that you have a normal mouth and it may be difficult to chew the bowl directly, so I will grind it into powder for you first. Lu Chang'an showed a gentle smile. Am I considerate? He. Jinho tried his best to turn over, but Lu Chang'an pinched his cheek and sprinkled ceramic powder into his mouth. I'm such a kind person. Looking at Jinho's fleeing back, Lu Chang'an felt a little emotional, because he didn't crush all the ceramic bowl and feed it to Jinho, nor did he take a bottle of water to rush the powder into Jinho's stomach. Thinking that Jinho will probably not use the trick of making soup to harass other people's girlfriends in the future, Lu Chang'an comforted him. When chasing girls, he should be more ordinary and down-to-earth, just like the idol drama Nuan Nan. How disgusting. He's gone. At this time, the door opened and An Nuan stuck her head out. Come in quickly, I'm hungry. Are you hungry and want to eat me? Eat your head. An Nuan's cheeks were slightly red. How about eating your tongue? Lu Chang'an is not that nasty, and he pays attention to his words. This made An Nuan a little excited, so she put her hands around his neck. You can eat your tongue when you are hungry. Jinho was resting in the hospital, fearing that his mother would know about it, so he did not dare to tell his family about it, not even to his uncle who often took him out to fool around. Fortunately, after the examination, the doctor said that I only need to take some medicine and rest. Ceramic powder has almost no harm to the human body and will be excreted soon. Mr. Jin, what do you want from me in the middle of the night? A lean young man walked into the ward, looked at Mr. Jin, and raised the corners of his mouth slightly. The young man was Niu Bang, the president of the Hunan University Muay Thai Club. Jinho called Niu Bang over in the middle of the night. He was probably beaten and suffered a loss. He wanted to ask Niu Bang for help, so Niu Bang's opportunity came. Can you not be happy? Help me teach someone a lesson. Jinho looked coldly at Niu Bang, whose mouth was slightly raised. He knew that Niu Bang was also a very realistic person. I will stop sponsoring the volleyball team and give it to your Muay Thai club. New Bangdale, the volleyball team is the signature of Hunan University. Generally, the sponsorship the volleyball team gets is not at the same level as other clubs and student organizations. Normally, the Muay Thai club can get very little funding, and the membership fees can barely maintain the basic activities of the club. What New Bang is most jealous of is the Taekwondo club. Under the banner of women's self-defense, the Taekwondo club has recruited a lot of girls who follow suit. And when there are more girls, more boys will be recruited. Plus some clothing fees, performance fees, communication fees, etc. are all messed up, and you will be extremely rich. The Hunan University volleyball team and the volleyball club are not the same thing. The latter is a student club managed by the Federation of Students, but the Hunan University volleyball team is not. In addition to school funding, it is also sponsored by powerful social companies and enterprises. Just like in Nuan, without Lu Chang'an's help, she could only play in the volleyball club as a hobby, while the Hunan University volleyball team mainly focuses on competition and pursuit of results. No problem, Mr. Jin, who do you want to teach? Niu Bang said confidently. Mr. Jin is also a discerning man. He knows that if he really wants to take action, he still has to find someone from the Muay Thai club. Where is the Taekwondo club? In front of our Muay Thai club, we are all showing off our fists and embroidered legs. If you want to find someone who can kick the wooden board, you still have to find a Taekwondo club. The Muay Thai club is inferior to it. If you want to kick people, the Muay Thai club is famous for sweeping away. Niu Bang even guessed that what Jin Ho wanted to teach was the jealous target. The lives of these rich children seemed colorful, but in fact it was just that, there was nothing new. Lu Chang'an, I just checked. He is still quite a figure in Junsha. What do you think? Do you dare? Jin Ho underestimated Lu Chang'an, but found that Lu Chang'an was actually an orphan. Even if such a person has some abilities, he can't if there is no background, the fight will be just that, and even if there is trouble, it will just be a loss of money. Niu Bang was stunned for a moment. Lu Chang'an, isn't this the person that the Muay Thai club is planning to compete with recently? This kills two birds with one stone. He's from our own school. In this case, Mr. Jin, there's no problem in teaching him a lesson, but when the teacher or the department encounters any trouble, you have to help me speak up. Niu Bang had heard of Lu Chang'an's name. The video of Lu Chang'an playing in the gym is available on Com, but when Niu Bang searched for the video, he found that the most people following him in the on-demand video were Northeast veterans on Kuaishou. It's very cool to kick in the gym, but it's the gym of those martial arts masters. It's basically no different from punching Bihai Kindergarten or kicking Nanshan Nursing Home. Lu Chang'an has become very famous, but Lu Chang'an doesn't seem to know how to hype and market. The popularity quickly passed, and now the number of people paying attention has been greatly reduced. Niu Bang also does live broadcasts. He usually communicates with some Muay Thai enthusiasts and fitness enthusiasts during the live broadcasts, and he also has a certain number of fans. This time he can warm up. When he really fights against Lu Chang'an, he will do a live broadcast. It works well. Maybe he can become prosperous just like that. He had no intention of finding a nook and secretly beating up Lu Chang'an, as that would be a waste of Lu Chang'an's remaining traffic. In this case, the matter may become a bit big. If teachers and school leaders are concerned, they will have to ask Jin Ho to speak. Of course. You've known me for more than a day or two. Am I the kind of person who doesn't pay attention to details? Jin Ho nodded. Okay, I'll get ready first. Niu Bang didn't ask about the discord between Jin Ho and Lu Chang'an in detail. He heard that Lu Chang'an's girlfriend was a school beauty. Jin Ho planned to win the beauty back, and Niu Bang also planned to harvest traffic from Lu Chang'an. It can be said that everyone gets what he needs. But, how can boxing be fun for women? Please vote for the big chapter. By the way, do you want to update one chapter every day, or update a big chapter every 2 days. A big chapter refers to the kind that has 7,8,000 to 10,000 words. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ryu Siahua. Chapter 878. Jinho's phone rang, and the takeout was delivered to the hospital entrance and he couldn't come in, so Jinho asked Niu Bang to help him get it. Some hospitals do not have this rule, and takeaways can be delivered to the wards, while other hospitals have stricter regulations. Niu Bang quickly brought the takeaways in, and then asked Jinho to complain to the takeaway boy because he saw other takeaways on the road. I'm willing to send it in. It's not necessary, it's not easy for me either. Maybe I'm tired, maybe I'm just feeling sad. Jinho waved his hand nonchalantly. Mr. Jin is so generous, Niu Bang flattered him casually. He was the financial owner. Jinho could only eat liquid food that was easy to digest now. He ordered a rare abalone rice with Buddha jumping over the wall, which was filled with a thick bowl of Buddha jumping over the wall in an earthenware bowl. It was wrapped in tinfoil and kept warm in a thick paper box. The packaging doesn't look cheap. Jinho ate in small bites with the silver spoon that came with the meal, then looked at the earthenware bowl and rubbed it gently with his fingers. He didn't try to pry it. The packaging was made of paper, but the earthenware bowl was genuine. Niu Bang, help me buy some packs of betel nuts. Jinho sent a red envelope to Niu Bang. The two of them were acquainted, so naturally they had WeChat friends, otherwise Jinho would not have come to Niu Bang. You didn't tell me, but you're going to run again, Niu Bang complained. Without any delay, he immediately accepted the red envelope and walked out. Only after he walked out the door did he take a look at the amount. Damn, he is indeed a rich man. He bought a betel nut-haired red envelope. All 500. Of course Niu Bang wouldn't spend 500 yuan to buy betel nuts, which includes running errands. Mr. Jin is really particular. After Niu Bang left, Jinho looked sideways at the door, then took out his mobile phone and dialed, Sister Ming Lin, I have arranged for a Muay Thai practitioner from our school to test the water first. You might as well give it a try. Maybe Hunan University is really Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and has such a martial arts master-level master. On the other end of the phone was a female voice with a smoky voice, full of sultry mature charm. Maybe Jinho was still a little unconvinced, he must be a master. The martial arts master is exaggerating. How old he is? The martial arts world is almost the same as the Writers' Association. You don't know what it is like. People carrying people in sedan chairs, and blowing each other in the enclosure. That's all. I've seen younger ones. Okay, this is the first time I've seen you so serious about pursuing a girl. I'll help you this time. After the woman finished speaking, she hung up the phone. Have you seen anyone younger? A teenager can be called a martial arts master? If this was not said by someone whom he was extremely convinced of, Jinho would really not believe it. Even if you start practicing martial arts from your mother's womb and become a master in your teens, this is too unbelievable. Is this the difference between geniuses and mortals? Born into a scholarly family, with his father being the president of a university, Jinho has actually seen many geniuses, but these geniuses are all from academia. Jinho has never paid attention to the so-called geniuses in the martial arts world. No matter how high the martial arts is, the genius, isn't it just a slap in the face? After eating half of Jinho's Buddha jumping over the wall, Niu Bang came back and said, I don't know what you like to eat. I have bought several brands of betel nut from Fat Brother, Lekazi, Xiangtan Shop, Heshengtiangxia, and Xiangjiangjiang. Jinho smiled, opened a pack at random, took one and put it in his mouth. In fact, he didn't eat the stuff often and it was not addictive. If you eat the stuff often, Your breath will become a problem and your teeth will look ugly. How can you chase girls? Niu Bang actually likes to eat. There are many Muay Thai masters with rotten teeth in Southeast Asia. He came to Junsha to study in college, and then he learned from others to eat betel nut. Now there is no problem with his teeth, but the number of oral ulcers has increased. In the morning, Lu Chang'an woke up early thinking about repairing the bed he broke last night. As soon as he opened his eyes, Nuan twisted her waist and rubbed her body into his arms. She was thinking about getting up to practice ball in the morning, and Lu Chang'an happened to be there too, so he could give her some pointers. Different talents and physical qualities lead to different applicable learning methods and coaching guidance. This is common sense she has known since she was in middle school and high school. Her previous talent and physical fitness could only be regarded as hobbies, and Lu Chang'an's guidance to her was consistent with this, but Nuan felt that she could now let Lu Chang'an teach her some real skills. I had a dream. I dreamed that you became Wei Xiaobao, Bai Hui became a K, and I became Shuang. I was so angry that I woke up, and Nuan said with a hum. This dream was still relatively real. Yes, I am as gentle and considerate as Shuang. The book The Deer and the Cauldron is quite disgusting. The level of disgust is second only to The Swordsman. This kind of book is the so-called mixed with private goods. We generally think that the author expresses upright three views and cognition in the novel. They are called thoughts and opinions. Strange things, oblique things, and things with ulterior motives are called private goods. Lu Chang'an agreed. If he had such a dream, he would indeed wake up angry. Hey, some people don't even know when to use the word private goods, and they just like to say that others are carrying private goods. Am I telling you this? And Nuan's eyes widened, trying to gradually train the tigress aura to make him afraid. I'm going to fix the bed. Lu Chang'an felt that he should go do some business. He originally slept in the study room last night. After Nuan took a bath, he came over to say good night to him, and he hugged him and lay down. Nuan's physique has been greatly enhanced now, and Lu Chang'an can also be a little rough and bold. Who knows that Nuan is fine, but there is something wrong with the bed. Can it really be repaired? If my mother finds out, she will have to laugh at me for 3 months. I won't be able to see anyone anymore. This is business, and Nuan no longer worries about Bai Hui turning into a K, becoming Lu Xiaobao's most beloved person. The person I like has this problem. No problem. Lu Chang'an sat up straight, the quilt slipped off, and the faint morning light outside the window made Nuan's back muscles the color of snow. Lu Chang'an asked, have you heard the full version of Wei Xiaobao's 18 touches? No. Lu Chang'an was naturally familiar with this kind of desecration of women in feudal society, so he discussed it critically with Nuan. By the time the bed was repaired, it was already almost 10 o'clock in the morning. Lu Chang'an was not in a hurry. Lu Yuang, Zhu Huntang, and others had been partying all night. It was unlikely that they would wake up in the morning, let alone rush back to Orange Garden community. Nuan had no time to practice, but Lu Chang'an showed superb skills and beat Nuan to a complete defeat. Nuan chose a pair of black tights in the closet. As soon as she put them on, Nuan felt something was wrong. They were too tight. Not only did Nuan's little volleyball show its true shape, but it also made the girl's private parts outline. She seemed to really fat. No, it's plump. This must be the second growth after a girl has a boyfriend. Thinking about her recent exercise and diet, Nuan was frightened and determined that she definitely had no tendency to become fat. She still had to change into a pair of looser sweatpants, which covered up her infinitely beautiful lower body curves. She hurriedly put on a coat and rushed to the roadside to take a taxi. Aren't you going to eat noodles? Lu Chang'an shouted in the kitchen. No. It's all you. I have to, it's too late. You'll eat it all yourself. Nuan ran out of the house, thinking about this scene. It really resembled her ideal life. Lu Chang'an was taken care of by herself. He was taking care of his wife and raising children at home, and he was so busy working hard outside that he didn't even have time to eat the breakfast he made. Nuan walked out of the community, the morning breeze blew over her slender waist, and she felt a slight chill. Because the cup size had increased, the vest also seemed a bit short. Nuan was secretly happy to try low-style clothing one day. The reason for feeling is that it would be better to change into a smaller skirt in front of Bai Fen. The last time Nuan went to Bai Hui's dormitory to try on a low dress, Nuan was very impressed by the slightly superior look in Bai Hui's eyes. At this time, a lean man walked by and glanced at Nuan. Nuan met his eyes and was slightly stunned. This man looked very thin, but he seemed to be the kind of practitioner who looks thin when wearing clothes and has muscles when taking off clothes. Subtype: my boyfriend is also like this, but Lu Chang'an's appearance and temperament are millions of miles away from this person. What are you looking at? I am Lu Chang'an's girlfriend. Nuan zipped up her zipper arrogantly, and then hurriedly got into a taxi on the side of the road. It was too late to wait for the school bus. The lean man was Niu Bang. When he saw this beautiful girl who was much taller than him getting into the taxi, he realized that she might be Nuan. The girls that people like Jin Ho fall in love with are really extraordinary. If those legs were practiced in Muay Thai, they would be so heroic in one sweep, and the waist would be so tight, strong, and with soft lines. But now, if he swept over her, she might be broken into two pieces, and both Jin Ho and Lu Chang'an would be heartbroken. It was quite a refreshing scene. Niu Bang took out his mobile phone and saw a broken ceramic bowl on the ground. He looked up at the unit building in front of him and was about to call Jin Ho when he saw a tall man walking out with a noodle bowl. Niu Bang didn't make any more calls. He rummaged through his phone and found the photos he downloaded online. He compared them and determined that the man walking under the tree carrying the noodle bowl was Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an and Zhou Dongdong often sit under the plane tree with bowls in their hands to eat noodles. It feels more leisurely and comfortable than sitting upright at the dining table to eat. Chewing slowly and carefully also makes them more appetizing. Lu Chang'an, you are Lu Chang'an, right? Niu Bang looked at Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an was very famous, but Hunan University was also very big. This was the first time Niu Bang had seen a real person. Lu Chang'an glanced at him, nodded and continued eating noodles. I am Niu Bang from the Muay Thai Club, and I would like to compete with you. Muay Thai Club? Is it a club that plays boxing? Lu Chang'an asked with interest after swallowing the noodles in his mouth. Niu Bang was stunned for a moment and suddenly became angry. It seemed that Lu Chang'an really deserved a beating. Wild ball boxing was originally a recreational game originated in Japan, but it was later developed into a synonym for stripping and guessing by Japanese variety shows. This is also a traditional Japanese skill that can transform any activity into an adult one. As for the game Wild Ball Fist on the PSP, the famous Kang technician participated in the production. I heard that you once kicked out the #1 martial arts gym in Junsha. I really want to see it. Niu Bang turned a deaf ear to Lu Chang'an's question. He didn't believe that Lu Chang'an didn't even know Muay Thai. Lu Chang'an said nothing and continued to eat noodles. Since you have such a great reputation, I hope that our discussion will be conducted under the witness of more people. Niu Bang continued. Since you were playing in the gym and there were people who helped you live broadcast, how about we also do a live broadcast for this time? Our Muay Thai Club's live broadcast room is also quite popular. You can also use the buddy who helped you live broadcast last time. Call. I checked and found out that your buddy's name is Ma Benway, and he is considered a big shot in the live broadcast industry. With his help, after some warm-up, it may be more popular than your last live broadcast. What do you think? Lu Chang'an finished eating the noodles, turned around and walked into Nuan's home. This Birdman. Niu Bang felt that Lu Chang'an didn't take him seriously at all, but it didn't seem like he was a bully-like being who would hit people if he disagreed with him, as was rumored in the school. At this time, Lu Chang'an walked out of An Nuan's house again. He had just put down the noodle bowl in his hand. Discuss. Niu Bang was about to speak, but he saw Lu Chang'an's figure disappearing on the spot and appearing in front of Niu Bang as if teleporting. His handsome and graceful face was full of smiles, and he softly said two words. Niu Bang felt a sharp pain in his lower abdomen, and Lu Chang'an punched Niu Bang in the abdomen without any warning. Niu Bang's body flew backwards, and what shocked him was that Lu Chang'an's face was always right in front of him, and then he punched him in the jaw again. Live streaming. Niu Bang screamed, feeling like a kite with broken strings being swept up and flying messily by the strong wind, while Lu Chang'an was clinging to him like a silent and traceless ghost. Hot. Lu Chang'an raised his leg in the air and lowered it gently. Niu Bang's body was immediately smashed down and buried in the pile of fallen leaves next to the sycamore tree. Lu Chang'an stretched out his finger and flicked away a dead leaf that flew towards his eyes. Walking back to An Nuan's home, Lu Chang'an washed the noodle bowl he had just finished and put it in the disinfection cabinet. Then he walked out and saw Niu Bang reluctantly getting up from the sycamore leaves. This person was probably an unlucky guy who was brought in by Jinho to test him. He didn't even know he was being sold, and Lu Chang'an didn't do anything ruthless. He was just an ordinary college student from Xiang University, so there was no need to turn him into a pulp. What's more, there is no jar at hand. An Nuan's family does have one, but it contains preserved eggs. He is really kind-hearted, and Lu Chang'an is very satisfied with himself in this life. Brother Lu, I was wrong, you, stop fighting. Niu Bang saw Lu Chang'an standing there and looking at him silently, and suddenly felt his legs were weak. His knees went weak and he knelt down on the ground. It does not mean that those who practice Muay Thai and are invincible cannot kneel with these legs. The bone density is higher than that of the average person, but it's not like they are made of steel. He was now in severe pain all over his body, and he felt that every piece of meat was about to fall off his bones. However, he felt that he was not injured by the beating, and he knew that the opponent's exertion and withdrawal of force were at the highest level, and he was an absolute martial artist. Learn from the great master and reach the legendary realm. The other party was just teaching him a lesson. Niu Bang was afraid for a while. If he fought with such a person, if the other party had murderous intentions, he might not even know how he died. Where is Jinho? I'll take you there. Niu Bang struggled to get up. Jinho had done him a terrible job this time. Now Niu Bang could only be thankful that he had just passed by the Orange Garden community and came in for a casual look. He met him unexpectedly. Lu Chang'an. If he waits until he has done all the warm-up activities and is beaten like this during the live broadcast, I am afraid that Niu Bang will become a joke in the Muay Thai and Hunan University in the future. Lu Chang'an and Niu Bang came to the hospital. Jinho changed his clothes, holding his mobile phone in his hand, and was about to be discharged. Don't leave the hospital, just continue to live. Lu Chang'an saw an earthenware bowl placed next to the hospital bed, took it and crushed it. You, Niu Bang, save me. When Jinho saw Lu Chang'an's move, he knew what Lu Chang'an was going to do, and he immediately bent over and got under the bed. Can I save you? Niu Bang was also restrained by Lu Chang'an's hand, but he also saw Jinho's expression. Jinho obviously knew that Lu Chang'an had this ability. Why are these rich kids so insidious? Niu Bang was filled with hatred. Jinho knew Lu Chang'an was so powerful, but he didn't give any hint to Niu Bang. Was he trying to get him to die? In the past, when we were poor, some people really ate dirt. You should try it too. The education of remembering the bitter and thinking of the sweet will never stop. After Lu Chang'an finished speaking, he fed the earthenware bowl to Jinho and ate it, adhering to the concept of treating diseases and saving people, teaching without discrimination. This is the so-called deed of one good deed a day. Presumably, through this, the Golden Lord will also be able to achieve a certain level of growth, and it is not known that over time, he will develop a grateful heart. After feeding Jinho the earthenware bowl, Lu Chang'an left. Niu Bang did not stay and followed Lu Chang'an and left. Jinho was speechless and rushed to the bathroom, scratching his throat but not spitting out much. He quickly held the after pouring water into his mouth and washing away the clay powder stuck in his mouth and throat, he was finally able to speak. Jinho didn't even bother to find a doctor, so he took out his mobile phone and made a call. Ming, Sister Minglin, please help me contact someone, that guy just came to the hospital again, I'm not done with him. The master from Nanyang is here in Junsha. He seems to be from an overseas sect of the Tiandao sect, an ancient section. He rubs ceramic shards with his hands, which is nothing to ancient martial arts masters like them. Okay, no matter how high the price is, I will definitely feed Lu Chang'an shit. I'll beg his mother, and I'll prepare fresh, steaming food for him to eat, Jinho roared angrily, but his throat felt uncomfortable again. Coughed for a while. The person on the other end of the phone laughed out loud and hung up. Jinho quickly returned to the ward and pressed the call button. Sister Minglin's surname was Qin. She owned many industries in Zhonghai, including top restaurants, private clubs, etc. She was very popular. The Qin family had a very strong influence in the political and economic academia. In terms of influence, Qin Minglin is only a side branch of the Qin family, but she has abundant resources of her own and does not rely much on the support of the main family. After Lu Chang'an left the hospital, he planned to go home and change clothes. He had to meet Yan Hui today, so he couldn't still wear the improved hanfu customized by An Nuan. Just now, I was strutting around the campus, but it attracted the attention of many girls, and many people took secret photos. Nowadays, there are many boys wearing hanfu, and many of them are beautiful, but there are very few who can wear it with the style of the Han family and the noble temperament of poetry and books. Brother Lu, do you still want to deal with me? Niu Bang followed Lu Chang'an, not daring to leave without permission. He just wanted to settle the matter today. It would be better than Lu Chang'an making a special trip to see him next time. Lu Chang'an had just taught Jinho a lesson. After an ordinary person is angry, no matter how unhappy he is with someone, they will not be so cruel and cruel again. It's none of your business. Lu Chang'an waved his hand. Niu Bang breathed a sigh of relief and said quickly, Jinho's father is our principal Jin. After all, you are a student of our school. I'm afraid this matter will be a bit troublesome. I know. It's because his father is Principal Jin that he won't be in trouble. After Lu Chang'an finished speaking, he left. Just like Qin Yinan is very low-key in school, but there are always a few people who know her background, including Principal Jin. If you pay attention to Qin Yinan, you will pay attention to Lu Chang'an, Qin Yinan's cousin, and you will know that Lu Chang'an is Lu Chang'an back then. The son of a construction professor. Professor Lu Jianxi was very low-key at Hunan University back then, but he was only low-key in the eyes of ordinary teachers. The school leadership knew that he was very difficult to mess with. Even if he left Hunan University after a scandal was exposed, it was only at his request. Niu Bang looked at Lu Chang'an's retreating figure and did not dare to follow him. In fact, he wanted to turn the conflict into friendship and take the opportunity to make friends with Lu Chang'an. Such a master is completely at the level of a martial arts master. Who wouldn't want to climb such a high branch? It's just that Niu Bang doesn't have the courage now. Thinking of the girl he met this morning, Niu Bang decided to take a roundabout route. Monthly votes, give me monthly votes. I have a disease that will kill me without monthly votes. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 879. When Lu Chang'an walked home, it was already noon. There was not even a dog at home, let alone someone to cook for him. It seems that Lu Xin also went out to play, instead of hiding somewhere and loyally waiting for Lu Chang'an like when he was waiting for Zhou Dongdong. After all, he is the protector of the Holy Lady, so Lu Chang'an has no objection. He rummaged in the refrigerator and then searched upstairs, and unexpectedly discovered that Zhou Shuling had bought several sets of black and white underwear sets that Li Hongfang had mentioned. Still haven't found any ready-made food. Lu Chang'an took beef, eggs, vegetables, ham sausages, and the hot sauce he made during military training last year in the refrigerator and cooked them in one pot. Finally, he added some instant noodles as the staple food. Ah, if this was seen by Koreans, they wouldn't claim that this is their national treasure delicacy, military hot pot. Back then, the US military stationed in Korea had abundant supplies, so they often threw away canned ham that was uneaten or spoiled. The colonial people picked it up and added some vegetable leaves to it, and it became the famous gourmet military pot in Korea. What fun! Ever since Shangguan Dandan came out of the coffin, Lu Chang'an rarely ate alone. As he ate, Lu Chang'an wiped his mouth and frowned, remembering something. Middle-aged working men are under great pressure from work and go home late every day. The wife and daughter had already gone to bed, the bedroom door was closed, and the middle-aged man was eating a cold meal. He was thinking that his daughter would have to pay for piano lessons, the math cram school hadn't been found yet, her parents hadn't been back for a visit for a long time, his aunt's son was getting married, his third uncle was hospitalized in the city, and the mortgage and car loans were due. My wife just bought a bag and luckily it can be paid in installments. The old Wang next door smokes Heetiangxia, but she is still smoking Furong Wang. The man came to the bathroom and found that he had some difficulty in urinating. The sound of water dripping was faint and absent, unlike before. In order not to disturb his wife and daughter's sleep, the man fell asleep in the study. As the days passed, the man touched his sparse hair and suddenly found that his wife's appearance was a little blurry in his mind. He was shocked that the living conditions between the couple had become alienated and indifferent, and he ran home panting. There was a pair of men's leather shoes placed at the door of his house. His wife's seductive but unfamiliar moans came from the bedroom. He walked over and opened the door tremblingly. When Lu Chang'an thought of this, he couldn't help but feel some resonance with depression. Now he was eating instant noodles alone, how he could understand the state of mind of this middle-aged man. He was able to experience this unexperienced state of mind of an ordinary middle-aged man through the act of cooking and eating instant noodles alone. He was really becoming more and more ordinary. Lu Chang'an nodded with satisfaction to himself. Of course, ordinary middle-aged people have to worry about their daughter's piano studies and cram school, so it is natural for him to think of sending Zhu Huntang to school later. After eating the instant noodles, Lu Chang'an cleared the table and went to the canteen to watch the old men and women playing cards. He also inquired about Shangguan Dandan's reputation and market conditions for playing cards. "Don't come to play anymore. We had a good time with Dandan," old man Qian said. "Xiao Liu's cards are still good." Mrs. Lu said it nicely, but she didn't object. Shangguan Dandan didn't like Mrs. Liu's use of eggs to offset the debt, but it was better than trying to win all her little hens. "Good going, Lu Chang'an. Didn't you play well with me before?" Lu Chang'an said dissatisfied. "I'll still call you when we're alone, but Dandan takes priority," another old lady said. "Hurry up and call Dandan over, our dance team's internal card game," old man Qin said. Lu Chang'an left angrily. This was definitely bullying and exclusion. What kind of dance team insider is Shangguan Dandan? During her first dance team training, she did less than 10 twists and turns, and then walked away holding a thermos. If you weren't next door, Zhu Huntang would have to cancel your team tour reward after winning the prize. Lu Chang'an came to Bailong Center, took the elevator and paused on the 98th floor. Zhu Huntang's new assistant Jin Xiaomei walked in. "Mr. Lu, good afternoon." Jin Xiaomei smiled, bowed, and said hello. Lu Chang'an nodded. Zhongqing would call him by his first name, but Jin Xiaomei, neither in terms of status nor relationship with Lu Chang'an, was worthy enough to call Lu Chang'an by his first name. He was very impressed by Jin Xiaomei's beauty. Although it was obvious that Jin Xiaomei's face had undergone surgery, the adjustment was really good. It could be regarded as a masterpiece in the plastic surgery industry. Lu Chang'an himself often pinches his face, and has no prejudice against plastic surgery. As long as the plastic surgery looks good, it's not his girlfriend or wife anyway, and there is no need to worry that after marrying a plastic surgery girl, giving birth to a child will always arouse all kinds of suspicion, thus making it difficult to face. The plastic surgery technology embodied on Jin Xiaomei's face does not seem to be available in ordinary hospitals. Lu Chang'an suspects that Jin Xiaomei is also the work of Sumei, using some technologies from the Tesla Research Center. Unless you are a close best friend, it is very impolite for someone with a normal relationship to ask if the other person has had plastic surgery and why. Lu Chang'an asked implicitly, "Have you been to South Korea?" "Ah," Jin Xiaomei tapped her face lightly with her finger, showing a surprised expression. The tip of her tongue was moist and tender without any coating, making her look very healthy and beautiful. "No, Mr. Lu." Lu Chang'an didn't ask any more questions. His question was too reserved. Most people probably wouldn't associate going to South Korea with going for plastic surgery. "By the way, is my dog here?" "Yes, his name is Lu Sin. He is playing with the door owner." By the way, the door owner is also a dog. Jin Xiaomei is not only responsible for taking care of Zhu Huntang, but also sometimes takes care of Zhu Huntang's pets. Lu Chang'an looked at Jin Xiaomei calmly and did not rub Jin Xiaomei's face back into a look that even plastic surgery could not bring back. "Take me to see it." Jin Xiaomei felt stiff all over, and all the air in the elevator was forced out, making it difficult for her to breathe. Fortunately, the elevator had stopped, and Jin Xiaomei quickly walked in front to lead the way, thinking that no wonder the third lady was so afraid of him. Because the third lady and her guests got up too late, Jin Xiaomei had just communicated with the kitchen about postponing lunch for a while, so that Jin Xiaomei would meet Lu Chang'an. Former assistant Zhong often said that this Mr. Lu is better. Jin Xiaomei didn't notice it at all. Jin Xiaomei suspected that Zhong Qing and Lu Chang'an were actually having an affair. There was no direct evidence, but women's intuition was always particularly sensitive in this regard. Lu Chang'an soon saw Lu Sin and another dog. He also saw alpaca kennels, a cross-floor marine animal living area, etc. on the road. It was like a zoo hundreds of meters in the air. No wonder in Zhejiang in Tangzai's, 5,000 square meters on a single floor is not considered a luxury house at all. She hasn't even built a racecourse or a forest park, and the zoo is not as good as the Shonan Provincial Zoo. Lu Sin occasionally raises his legs to pee, and now he does these gender-disordered actions. In fact, in the eyes of dog owners, it is very common, and many female dogs do this. The tradition of the Zhu Fenglai sword sect is that force is never allowed, and there is absolutely zero tolerance for this kind of behavior. Lu Chang'an shouted angrily, "Bitch, be careful, I'll castrate you." "Go and play." Lu Chang'an patted Lu Sin on the head and then motioned for him to play by himself. Lu Sin put down the dog in his mouth, bit the dog's leash again, and walked the dog. Lu Chang'an went downstairs to find Zhu Huntang. "We had a lot of fun last night. Both Dan and Professor Lu tried on my little skirt. Dong Dong used the alpaca as a doll and wanted to ride on Long Aotian's back, but he was sprayed with saliva, haha." When Zhu Huntang saw Lu Chang'an, he was a little regretful that he didn't come over to play together. Otherwise, by joining forces with Dandan, and with Professor Liu's identity as the prospective mother-in-law, he might be able to force Lu Chang'an to join in and have some fun. A game to humiliate him. "Change clothes and go to class." Lu Chang'an stated the purpose of his visit succinctly. Zhu Huntang was stunned for a moment. How could someone be forced to go to school while they were having fun? Zhu Huntang looked at the brand new custom-made golden sheep doll suit he had just put on, and was furious. The sheep doll costume does not have horns, but it has two sheep ears, which are stretched straight and flapping with Zhu Huntang's breathing. Matching her expression, she looks like an angry sheep. Lu Chang'an looked at her calmly. The fact that there were no horns did not mean that she was not equipped with an electric shock device. As long as she came close, he would peel off her skin and show her countless short videos of sheep being shaved. Although the last time I showed her this little video, it didn't leave a deep psychological shadow. It's obvious. Have you watched Three Kingdoms? Zhu Huntang calmed down and decided to reason with Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an nodded. As long as it involved topics such as history and culture, he could still talk to her calmly. Professor Lu recited the preparation manual last night. Zhu Huntang showed a shocked expression. She even recited it backwards once, while she was drunk. You can remember the name Shi Biao? I feel like I'm drunk. Lu Chang'an nodded. Biao Shi is an article written by Zhujiang to Luodu. Zhu Huntang was not drunk last night, because her purpose was to play with other people at will. Of course, she could not be drunk and secretly put her own clothes on others while they were drinking. The wine was replaced by pineapple beer, a cheap sparkling drink that looks like beer but actually has no alcohol. What do you want to say? Lu Chang'an frowned. You see, Zhujiang visited the thatched cottage 3 times, and later became sworn friends with Liu Bei in Daowen. He was so loyal that he vomited blood in disgust. What's the use of trying to make Luodu the emperor of the 3 kingdoms? After his death, will Luodu become the emperor? Zhujiang vomited blood. Even if a blood bank could be built, it would not be able to support Luodu. Zhu Huntang lamented. Lu Chang'an took a deep breath. It's not nausea and vomiting blood. It's called heartbreaking work. It describes Zhujiang's hard work that he devoted all his energy and devoted himself to the end. You use an idiom that I don't even understand to explain a relatively simple idiom. Is there something wrong with your brain? Zhu Huntang looked at Lu Chang'an suspiciously. Lu Chang'an clenched his fists. Are you trying to say that you are just like Luodu? No matter how I educate you or assist you, you will ultimately fall short. Wise Zhu Huntang raised his hand and pressed his trembling sheep's ears. This emotion perception and control system didn't seem to be very easy to use. When it trembled, it felt like he was having epilepsy. Look at the friends I have made. Qin Yinan's brain is abnormal, and she fantasizes about being a pregnant woman all day long. Dandan is majestic every day, intoxicated with 2000 years ago and can't extricate himself. Apart from playing cards, he drinks and drinks with nothing to do every day. Zhou Dongdong ranks first in the class in eating and has good grades. Ranked last in the class. Zhou Shuling is a boss lady who still pretends to be busy even though she makes as much money as her rice noodle shop. There is also Bai Fen, who has nothing in his mind except a small hoe. Is this still the circle of friends of a world-class heir to evil forces? I have already degenerated. Zhu Huntang sighed deeply. Since I have already degenerated, why not completely degenerate? You must not want to see me change because of I want to be better and treat my friends as passers-by. Zhu Huntang, who is so cold, so ruthless, so noble, and so lonely, is not my pursuit. Lu Chang'an's heart exploded. Fortunately, his body was strong and his control was extremely strong, so his whole body was not blown away by the explosion. He tried to stay calm and reshape the heart that exploded in his chest, then slowly stepped forward and asked word by word, have you ever heard of the power of the ancient world? Zhu Huntang nodded, but he didn't know what Lu Chang'an was going to do, so he followed him fearfully. In fact, she also knew that she should run away at this time, but she was just a weak BBAA. Could she still escape from his grasp? It's better to follow him immediately and see how he wants to deal with him. Zhu Huntang's sheep ears began to shake at high speed. Only then did she realize that the shaking speed controlled by this emotion sensing system was so that the more scared she was, the faster it would be, and it was not so sensitive to other emotions. Human beings are able to continue to reproduce because they know fear. All creatures that do not know whether to live or die are extinct. Zhu Huntang discovered this. Lu Chang'an came to Zhu Huntang's princess dressing room, which was filled with Lolita-style, gorgeous dinner-style skirts and dresses as well as accessories. Zhongqing was ordered to renovate it recently and install a safe door at the level of a major international bank's vault. It was to prevent Lu Chang'an from killing Zhu Huntang's beloved skirt and socks. Zhu Huntang saw Lu Chang'an stretch out a hand. His arm swelled like the Hulk, and his muscles bulged like hard stones. Lu Chang'an really couldn't restrain the ancient power in his body, a power that truly came from the ancient times, not an adjective or a fairy term. The arms were covered with black scales, each one shiny and hard, reflecting Zhu Huntang's stunned face with his round mouth. His palms were even more unrecognizable, turning into some kind of dragon claws that could pierce and crush everything. Lu Chang'an's hand pierced the metal door in front of him little by little, with 5 fingers piercing it. Then he pulled hard, and the entire door and the wall were torn off by Lu Chang'an. Looking at Zhu Huntang, who was stunned like a dead sheep, Lu Chang'an asked coldly, "Are you going to class this afternoon?" Zhu Huntang nodded repeatedly, and while looking at Lu Chang'an's frightening eyes, he came over with trembling legs. The sheep ears on her head trembled so much that they seemed to be able to fly with her. Zhu Huntang reached out and touched Lu Chang'an's big hand, then turned his head to look at Lu Chang'an, lowered his head and bit Lu Chang'an's hand and limbs as if he had descended from a prehistoric species. "I can't bite it at all." It was so scary that Zhu Huntang turned around and ran away. The middle-aged man opened the door and saw the scene. Those who guess the first type are considered normal people, live a positive life, and are full of trust in their friends and relatives. I guess the second type is more sad. If you guess the third type, please leave the earth. As for which 3 types I am talking about, can you guess? Asking for a monthly ticket. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Liankui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 880. Lu Chang'an looked at his hand. The black scales were like crystal stones, flowing with a watery luster. The undulating muscles and smooth lines under the scales looked delicious. Of course he won't eat himself, he just thinks so and comments objectively. The sharp dragon claws can tear everything apart. If anyone thinks that it would be terrible for Lu Chang'an to seal him up in a cage and bury him at the bottom of the sea, that would be a bit ridiculous. Thinking about it carefully, the last time he showed this kind of dragon claw was during the southern and northern dynasties, when he taught a person to learn martial arts, revealed the dragon claw, and let him understand the spirit of martial arts. Later, the person named the 2 martial arts he learned: Dragon Claw skill and Vajra body protection magic skill. The Dragon Claw Kung Fu and the Diamond Body Protection Magic Kung Fu that this person learned are still very different from those performed by Lu Chang'an himself, but for ordinary people, they are already miraculous Kung Fu. It's just that without Lu Chang'an's guidance and influence, the Dragon Claw technique taught by this person will still be powerful in later generations, but it can only be regarded as in vain. As for the magical power of Diamond Body Protection, no one can fully master it anymore. Lu Chang'an came back to his senses and watched as the limbs returned to the shape of human arms. His brows furrowed little by little. Zhu Huntang was obviously very scared just now, but he still wanted to bite him. Why did she take a bite? Could it be that he was attracted by his sudden surge of vitality and blood just now? In the process of trying to give birth to Zhu Huntang, Su Mei took advantage of Mrs. Karnstein and the Tesla Biological Research Center. Was Zhu Huntang's behavior of always wanting to bite him influenced by Mrs. Karnstein? No, it's also possible that she's overthinking it, and she just has a mental problem. If you want to understand what a mentally ill person is thinking, you can only make yourself mentally ill. Lu Chang'an stopped exploring Zhu Huntang's abnormal behavior in time. His hand returned to its original position, and Lu Chang'an kicked the fallen wall and metal door, holding on before his toes touched them. After one step, the shoes were useless. Lu Chang'an stepped on the door and walked in, ready to take a look at Zhu Huntang's collection. The walk-in closet is a standard feature of luxury homes. Zhu Huntang's is no longer a so-called walk-in closet. It looks like a luxury brand's flagship store. Not only is there a van elevator, but there are also escalators and spiral staircases everywhere. There is a visible sofa and water closet, as well as a professionally equipped studio and several large screens that are probably used to watch the front and back effects of dresses at the same time. Lu Chang'an did not go upstairs to visit. After all, this was a girl's dressing room. Maybe there were some more private clothes upstairs. Although he would usually kill her little skirt and socks without hesitation when he was angry, Lu Chang'an was not completely without sense of propriety. He thought for a while, stretched out his finger and drew the words "Lu Chang'an is here for a visit" on a wall. It must have been a warning to her. Lu Chang'an could come and kill her skirt and socks at any time. After exiting the dressing room, Lu Chang'an continued to walk forward for a while. This is the guest room area. Zhu Huntang will arrange the general guests who need to be entertained in the hotel suite downstairs. Those who are close to him will stay in the guest room on this floor. Opening a door at random, Lu Chang'an saw a vertical wine cabinet lying on the ground. The transparent wine cabinet door was tightly closed. Shang Guandandan could be seen lying upright inside the wine cabinet, his eyes tightly closed, and he was screaming loudly. Sleeping with an unopened bottle of red wine in his hand. The partitioned wine racks in the wine cabinet have been taken out, and there are many wine bottles scattered around. They have all been opened. There is not a drop of wine in them, but not all of them have been drunk, because Shang Guandandan the thermos jug is placed next to it. The lid of the pot was also opened, and it was filled with red wine. It seemed that Shang Guandandan was not only full, but also fulfilled her wish to fill her owl with wine. It's just that there are several types of wine here. Can you still drink them if they are mixed together? Lu Chang'an looked at the big thermos jug with some doubts. After thinking about it for a while, he gave up the idea of trying it. He was not a stupid creature like Zhou Dongdong, who tasted it first anyway. It would be great if this wine cabinet had a lock. Even if there was a lock, it wouldn't be able to lock her. It seemed that Shang Guandandan didn't just love her little coffin. This kind of small enclosed space was also where she liked to stay. No wonder she and Zhou Dongdong are good friends. Zhou Dongdong once liked to hide in the refrigerator when playing hide and seek. Shang Guandandan's cheeks are rosy, her little lips are red and moist, and her long eyelashes are as straight as the first moon. Looking through the transparent wine cabinet door, she looks like an exquisite doll placed in the window. Her skin was radiant and as delicate as porcelain, and one couldn't help but feel that if she were taken out, she would be resurrected. Oh, she wasn't dead in the first place, she just looked too much like a doll. Lu Chang'an thought for a while, found paper and pen on the table in the reception room, neatly drew a talisman, and pasted it on the wine cabinet door. This kind of talisman was Lu Chang'an's invention. It originally required bathing in dragon's blood to seal away all evil spirits. Not even the Corpse King could do anything about it. After all, the blood in it was as powerful and vibrant as the source of life on the entire earth. The mere Corpse King simply couldn't bear it. After being contaminated with dragon blood, all evil spirits will fade away and become an ordinary life. But such a talisman may not be able to seal Shang Guandandan. Firstly, this kind of zombie with a bronze coffin from ancient civilization is not as simple as a Corpse King. Secondly, she is still a little turkey, and a little turkey is not as good as Lu Chang'an. This kind of super life is advanced, but also extraordinary. He has cultivated himself to the extreme, and used the imperial city of the great empire and the position of the Queen Mother to refine the evil spirit into majestic power. Lu Chang'an frowned and looked at the talisman, then relaxed his brows again. It was just for fun, not real. Looking inside again, Lu Yuwang was not found. Zhou Shuling was lying on the bed. This was what Lu Chang'an had expected. After all, seeing Shang Guandandan, he could guess that it was Zhou Shuling who was inseparable from the bedroom. She was Shang Guandandan's most beloved daughter-in-law. She and Lu Yuwang were not as close as spending the night together in the same room. Zhou Shuling was only wearing a set of underwear, and the back button of the tattoo on her chest was unbuttoned. She was slightly bent, and there was a small curled-up mark in front of her body. It seemed that Zhou Dongdong was curled up in her arms and sleeping. There was no way Zhou Dongdong could party all night long with a bunch of stinky women like them. He had to go to school again today, so he probably had to go to school obediently in the morning. This group of women were originally sweet, but when they gathered together to drink and have sex, they became stinky women. Lu Chang'an was very fair and did not hesitate to include beautiful girls like Zhu Huntang and Bai Hui among them. But Lu Chang'an thought of Zhu Huntang, and his eyes when looking at Zhou Shuling became much gentler and more pitiful. Thinking about how Zhou Shuling usually couldn't bear to beat Zhou Dongdong, what a grief-stricken and hopeless mood she felt. I can't always let Zhou Dongdong make Zhou Shuling angry in the future. Don't do to others what you don't want others to do to you. After all, Lu Chang'an is such a person who is good at putting himself in someone else's shoes. He will correct his mistakes when he knows they are wrong, and let go of anything he has done. Let's make some high-performance facial cream to replenish her body as soon as possible. Lu Chang'an helped her button up her tattooed breasts and carefully covered her with the quilt before leaving. Girls usually have to unbutton their breasts and backs when sleeping. Who doesn't know that? But specific things must be analyzed concretely. Regardless of the prerequisites and special circumstances in specific things, those who always like to do some popular science first are probably fools. In fact, there is no special reason, because with Zhou Shuling's current physical condition, the disadvantages of sleeping with her tattooed breasts unbuttoned do not exist, but she will eventually wake up from sleep due to discomfort. This is an extremely clever technique for waking up the bed. Lu Chang'an closed the bedroom door and went back outside. He found that Shang Guandandan had woken up. She was opening her eyes and looking at the charm Lu Chang'an left on the wine cabinet with fear. Lu Chang'an was just painting for fun, did he scare her? Lu Chang'an hurriedly walked over and loudly informed, "This is a heavenly talisman bathed in dragon blood. It can suppress everything, even you can't do anything." Shang Guandandan was lying in the wine cabinet, and he seemed to hear clearly through the glass door. The panic in her eyes was even worse, and she kept tapping on the wine cabinet. Her ability to easily push Lu Chang'an aside the ancient power seemed to have no effect at all. The small wine cabinet made her ordinary because of the talisman. Lu Chang'an found it a bit funny. This talisman must be useless. It was probably Shang Guandandan who came up with the problem by herself. At this time, Shang Guandandan suddenly opened his mouth wide and let out a cry of horror. His eyes bulged and his black hair instantly turned into silver threads. Dan, Lu Chang'an didn't think it was funny. He was surprised and tore off the talisman, quickly tore open the wine cabinet and took Shang Guandandan out. He was about to test Shang Guandandan's vitality, but found that the expression on Shang Guandandan's face had returned to normal, and he looked at Lu Chang'an with a peaceful expression. "Is it fun for me to cooperate with you like this?" Lu Chang'an casually threw her on the sofa. What a sinister and cunning little old lady. I opened my eyes and saw the talisman paper posted on it. No one would be so boring except you, so I had to take advantage of it. After all, Xiaoling often plays games with Dongdong. Shang Guandandan crawled to the ground, put the unopened bottle of wine in the wine cabinet into her sleeve pocket, raised her owl and started drinking. She took 2 sips, her head began to shake, her shoulders straightened twice, and then her head stopped moving against the mouth of the thermos. Lu Chang'an pushed it and actually fell asleep again. Although Shang Guandandan's alcohol capacity was not good, he usually wouldn't drink it after a few sips. Lu Chang'an held the thermos flask suspiciously and took a sip. "This wine, even Lu Chang'an had never drank anything with such a strange taste. He couldn't help but frown. He felt that something was wrong in his entire mouth. He quickly put down the thermos bottle and was about to find another drink to rinse his mouth, but found Shang Guandan. Dan had raised his head and was sitting on the ground watching him, chuckling. Her eyebrows were curved and the corners of her mouth were slightly raised, as if she was a proud little fox who had done something bad. Is it interesting to kill 800 enemies and lose 10,000 to yourself? Lu Chang'an only tasted one sip, while Shang Guandandan drank several sips just now. Shang Guandandan stood up, jumped on Lu Chang'an's back and lay on his back, resting his face on his shoulder, looking sideways at him, in Vyang Palace, you tricked me into drinking strange wine, and I will trick you into drinking it today too. We drank some strange wine, and we are even, but you must always be with me from now on, and you are not allowed to let me lie in the coffin and look for you everywhere. This world is very big, strange, and very confusing and unsettling. Fortunately, I finally found him. After saying that, Shang Guandandan tried his best to rub up, brought his pouted lips to Lu Chang'an's face and kissed him, then lay on his shoulder and closed his eyes. This time she really fell asleep again. Lu Chang'an shook his head and held her butt with his backhand to let her sleep more peacefully. Thank you everyone for your generous tips. I didn't expect that there would be so many tips for daily updates. I will definitely work harder. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 881. When Bai Hui was about to change clothes and go out, Jin Xiaomei came to see Bai Hui. I heard from Zhongsuk that you like to eat mutton eggs. I told the kitchen yesterday. When I just went to the kitchen to confirm the menu, the kitchen said it was ready and made a dish called Sanyang Kai Tai. It is said that the eggs don't have any smell at all, they are crispy and tender, like pudding. Although Zhongqing holds a higher level position, Zhongqing still seems to prefer others to call her Zongji to highlight her background as the true controller of the Zhu family, the third wife and the heir Zhu Huntang's confidant. In fact, the extent to which Zhongqing can rise in the end has little to do with her personal ability, but her qualifications as the third wife and Zhu Huntang's assistant are more important. In Jin Xiaomei's past observations, there is no doubt that Zhongqing is favored by the third wife, but his relationship with Zhu Huntang is not to the same extent. Many times, Zhongqing relies on the support of the third wife and goes against Zhu Huntang's wishes. And even interfered with and sabotaged Zhu Huntang's plan. Zhongqing's actions did not make Zhu Huntang lose trust and dependence on her, but Jin Xiaomei believed that Zhu Huntang would still feel that the mark of the third wife on Zhongqing was too deep. Even if she is the third wife's daughter, Zhu Huntang will have some inconsiderate feelings towards Zhongqing. This is Jin Xiaomei's opportunity. Jin Xiaomei's position for herself is not to be the second Zhongqing, but to be Zhu Huntang's Zhongqing. She only needs to follow Miss Zhu San closely. The Zhu family will eventually fall into Zhu Huntang's hands, right? With such a goal, Jin Xiaomei must of course please everyone around Zhu Huntang. Bai Hui is not only Zhongqing's cousin, but also Zhu Huntang's close friend, she can even sleep with Zhu Huntang in his arms. Such treatment is rare. Just a few people. Since Zhu Huntang and Qin Yanan sleep less together and spend more time sleeping with Bai Hui, Jin Xiaomei wonders if Zhu Huntang has such a tendency, because most of the time Zhu Huntang is happily immersed in Bai Hui's body. Hum in your arms, or fall asleep sweetly. This has nothing to do with Jin Xiaomei. Anyway, she only needs to have a good relationship with Bai Hui, otherwise Bai Hui will make Jin Xiaomei more passive whether Bai Hui says something dissatisfied with Jin Xiaomei in front of Zhongqing or Zhu Huntang. Ah, when did I say that I like to eat mutton eggs? My cousin really does. Maybe she meant that I like to eat eggs, Bai Hui said in surprise. Yes, I like dandan. Bai Hui emphasized and suddenly realized, my cousin often eats barbecue with Lu Chang'an. What she said is that Lu Chang'an likes to eat mutton eggs. The only time Bai Hui ate this kind of balls was when Lu Chang'an tricked him into eating his goat balls. Well, it can also be said that he ate his balls. He, Bai Hui thought about it in shame, with a little smile on his cheeks. Shy and charming. Jin Xiaomei looked at the intoxicated and sweet expression on the girl's face when she mentioned her sweetheart, and nodded. That's probably because I heard wrong. I just met Mr. Lu who came to see the third lady. I wonder if he will come with him. Meal. Lu Chang'an is here? Bai Hui's chest seemed to have a deer waking up from sleep, jumping up and down. Bai Hui lifted up her sexy and cute nightgown, but found that Jin Xiaomei was paying attention to her expression, and she quickly strangled Luan Tiao. Dear. Well, Lu Chang'an has no sense of time except when asking others, but he never misses 3 meals a day all year round. Basically, there is no situation where he has not eaten after mealtime. But he is the type who can still eat it, so there is no need to prepare anything special for him. The mutton egg is already eaten by him, and neither Xiao Tang nor I will eat it. Bai Hui said calmly to show her and Lu Chang'an it's just the kind of friendship where we know each other better. However, this kind of revealed understanding may make Jin Xiaomei understand that she and Lu Chang'an are actually a little ambiguous. Bai Hui grasps the situation and observes whether Jin Xiaomei can understand it. Jin Xiaomei smiled, with just the right amount of teasing in her eyes, implying that she knew that Bai Hui and Lu Chang'an had an ambiguous relationship, but it was not too obvious. After all, the relationship between the two parties was not close enough that they could tease each other about their emotional problems at will. Bai Hui was slightly shy. The deer she had strangled to death was now alive and kicking again. After Jin Xiaomei left, Bai Hui arranged her hair, hurriedly washed her face and brushed her teeth, took some sweet and fresh fruit-flavored oral aroma popping gum, then brushed her eyelashes and applied lip color to make herself look more beautiful. There is no obvious makeup feeling. Bai Hui was about to go out to encounter Lu Chang'an, but Zhu Huntang ran in with a look of panic. Seeing Zhu Huntang's expression, Bai Hui stopped. Zhu Huntang hugged Bai Hui, buried her head in Bai Hui's arms, and gasped, I'm scared to death. They say sheep have 9 lives. I want it true it's a sheep, at least 8, 5, 2 lives were frightened to death by Lu Chang'an. Zhu Huntang calmly analyzed it. If someone else had used his ancient power in front of Zhu Huntang, he might have been scared to death. But that was Grandpa after all, so he didn't think it was that scary. He reluctantly gave him 2 lives. Take your life to show respect. Cats have 9 lives, sheep have none. Bai Hui corrected Zhu Huntang helplessly. Zhu Huntang rubbed himself in her arms. Bai Hui suddenly felt that nothing serious happened. Zhu Huntang was probably taken care of by Lu Chang'an again. Why does a cat have 9 lives? Zhu Huntang was dissatisfied. She now has 9 lives because of the Golden War. If she were in the state of Xianmei, then she would have countless lives. It's just that Xianmei's state is bound to Lu Chang'an's immortal state, and she will become a mount, so Zhu Huntang added a new identity that he can use, Golden Xianmei. It was too noisy last night, and now I'm a little dizzy. I need to go out for a walk. Bai Hui pushed Zhu Huntang away and wondered about Zhu Huntang's physical fitness. Everyone else was sleeping, but she had woken up long ago. Jumping around and playing in his golden suit, he seemed completely unaffected by last night's mischief. Fortunately, before going to bed in the morning, Zhu Huntang gave everyone something to prevent hangover sequelae, otherwise Bai Hui would be very uncomfortable now. Haha, you want to go out for a walk, just like this? You obviously want to seduce Lu Chang'an. Zhu Huntang rubbed his nose and nodded with satisfaction. She was not only satisfied with the rich fragrance of Bai Fen that hid her face, but also satisfied that Bai Fen had finally awakened and was ready to use the power of a bear on Lu Chang'an. Which one is more powerful, the power of prehistoric times or the power of bears? This was a very interesting question. Zhu Huntang decided to think deeply about it later, analyze it, and come up with a set of theories, which might then be used to provoke Lu Chang'an and make him angry. I didn't, Bai Hui denied with a blushing face. Xiao Didi didn't look very determined, because this was originally Zhu Huntang's sexy idea for her before. Zhu Huntang did understand Lu Chang'an, or maybe it was his own psychology. Bai Hui always felt that after the cranberry incident, Lu Chang'an looked at her with more lust in his eyes. As long as it is the person you like, even if the look at her is more terrifying than a pervert, even if he wants to eat her with eagerness and greed, it will not disgust the girl. She will only feel like a cute kitten unable to resist. The owner of the ground engages in various fanatical cat-sucking behaviors. Your skin is too white. I suggest you use rose red lipstick to make it more conspicuous through your pajamas. It will drive him crazy and use all his strength. Zhu Huntang imagined Lu Chang'an's big chicken claws grabbing. Seeing Bai Hui's crazy look, he grabbed a lipstick and came over to prepare to implement his plan. Bai Hui quickly refused. Zhu Huntang is very smart and does not have the moral bottom line of ordinary people. She is under the psychological pressure of public order and good customs. She will do whatever comes to her mind. Bai Hui cannot cooperate with her in everything. The most important thing is that Bai Hui showed it to Lu Chang'an. If under certain circumstances, he saw her again with lipstick on, would he think she was a pervert? Seeing Bai Hui's firm refusal, Zhu Huntang did the next best thing and applied lipstick on the surface of Bai Hui's pajamas, pretending that he accidentally soiled the pajamas, but in fact he could still attract Lu Chang'an's attention. This was counterintuitive. While Bai Hui pushed Zhu Huntang gently, she accidentally got the lipstick in Zhu Huntang's hand. By the way, I suspect that I have awakened a strange habit. Zhu Huntang looked at the red color of lipstick on his pajamas with satisfaction. In this way, he attracted Lu Chang'an's attention and then affected his behavior, which is basically the same as he controlled Lu Chang'an. What's your hobby? Bai Hui pulled the hem of her skirt and twisted around to see if the red color on her pajamas was natural, and whether Lu Chang'an would notice that it was intentional. He could bury the blame as soon as they met, and it was Zhu Huntang who soiled it. His pajamas, and he didn't know that he hadn't left yet. I found that as long as I am around Lu Chang'an, I have a special feeling, extremely happy and at ease. It seems that no one can cure me and I can do whatever I want. Zhu Huntang felt the shock today and felt the need to face up to and analyze his feelings. Lu Chang'an's psychology changed. Bai Hui looked at Zhu Huntang in surprise. Could it be that facing Lu Chang'an, even a fairy like Zhu Huntang would eventually be unable to extricate herself? After that, Bai Hui felt that Nuan was already very embarrassed, and with the addition of Zhu Huntang, Bai Hui's little hoe in his mind had been swung to the limit, and he really didn't have much strength left. Considering that Zhu Huntang believes that Lu Chang'an can open a harem, Zhu Huntang may not actively reject Bai Hui, and may even win over Bai Hui to form an alliance. Ah, what are you thinking about? Bai Hui looked at Zhu Huntang blankly, a little suspicious that what Zhu Huntang said was actually not the same thing as what he thought. You also said that no one can cure you. How was it that you were not cured by Lu Chang'an? Bai Hui said with a hum. Zhu Huntang waved his hand disapprovingly. Being treated by Lu Chang'an was not treated as being treated, but only a tactical surrender. Today he was showing off his power to scare her. Didn't she bite him in return and then leave in style? Listen to my analysis. Ordinary women like you all intend to be played with by Lu Chang'an in order to obtain the happy sugar juice secreted by the brain controlled by genes. In this process, Lu Chang'an will have full contact with you. Zhejun Tangyang the sheep said proudly, but I am a fairy, so naturally I will not be so low level. What you mean is that you think that as long as you are around Lu Chang'an, you will immediately become a trendsetter, like the song Sad Pacific sung by Ren Xiankai. There is no need to have full contact with Lu Chang'an. Bai Hui and Zhu Huntang, we have a close relationship and have been together for a long time. Why don't you understand what the hell is going on in her mind? I can't help but feel funny and angry at the same time. Should I say Zhu Huntang is too pure or too dirty? Zhu Huntang looked at Bai Hui dissatisfied. Isn't it like this? Find some time, let's watch a movie and find some related books to study, so you won't be so crazy. Bai Hui lowered her voice. As a best friend, of course she has to stand up for such extremely private matters. After solving her problems, Zhu Huntang is really childish. No wonder he always likes to bleat and play with Zhou Dongdong and Shang Guandandan. Ahem, I don't mean to slander or disrespect Dongdong and Dandan. Baihui is just making an objective comment. She also likes to play with Dongdong Dandan, but she is not childish. You dirty big-hearted woman, Zhu Huntang scolded and agreed. She also realized that she might have thought too much, and she was a little relieved. If she really fell in love with Lu Chang'an, then Bai Hui, Qin Yinan, and Nuan, how sad and sad these women must be. After all, fairies like themselves must be favored by him. It is inevitable that they will shiver in the cold palace, feeling colder and colder, and finally run to the Antarctic to be with their mother. Cold palace? Antarctica? Mother? Zhu Huntang couldn't help but have a doubt in his heart. Thank you all for your generous tips, please give me a monthly pass. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 882. Zhu Huntang has not seen her mother for a long time. This is actually not a rare thing. Ever since he was a child, the time Zhu Huntang was with his mother was definitely less than the time she left. Only in a truly ordinary family will mom be by your side day and night. When Zhu Huntang grew up, he always thought back and did not complain about this. He felt that his mother cared for him too little. She is the third young lady of the Zhu family, and her mother is the actual controller of the Zhu family. Unless Zhu Huntang is willing to be an ordinary girl with a family asset of not even 100 million yuan, RMB, and her mother is willing to be an ordinary housewife in such a family, otherwise there's nothing to complain about. When he was a child, he had doubts that he was not his biological child, but occasionally he would find his mother looking at him, as if she was reminiscing about something, but full of affection, so Zhu Huntang knew that he was his biological child. The older he grows up and the more he comes into contact with the core industries and secrets of the Zhu family, the more Zhu Huntang is able to understand his mother's busyness. It is precisely because her mother is flying around without touching the ground that Zhu Huntang can be so idle and happy, being the only one who lives in the universe of fairy sheep. Although her mother is very cruel, and Zhu Huntang often suspects that her mother commits murder and arson, commits all kinds of evil, and is the head of a huge, world-class evil force, Zhu Huntang's feelings for her are not the same as the attachment and admiration that ordinary daughters have for their mothers. Too many differences. My mother treats her the same way. Although she is grounded at every turn, she is almost pampering and indulgent towards Zhu Huntang. She does not allow Zhu Huntang to build a forest park on the top floor of Beilong Center, and prohibits Zhu Huntang from trying to use drugs. Money, beautiful women, and other means of coercion and inducement are used to secretly control the principal and other management of Hunan University, and they are slightly vindictive. Zhu Huntang originally planned to control Lu Chang'an in this way, but failed. Recalling the noble and cold look when he first met Lu Chang'an, he felt that the past was unbearable to look back on. It has been more than half a year since my mother left last summer. During this period, she has maintained contact with Zhu Huntang, but she has never met directly again. Zhu Huntang only knew that she was now in Antarctica. Going to Antarctica is not a difficult task, especially after my mother killed a few greedy environmentalists, bribed a group of people, and successfully found a suitable place in Antarctica to build a private airport. Not to mention Zhu Huntang's own custom-made aircraft, even an ordinary business jet with a range of more than 10,000 kilometers has many options, and it is easy to fly there. It's just that her mother has no intention of receiving her, and she doesn't know what she is doing there. In addition, Zhu Huntang doesn't really like to stay in Antarctica. Zhu Huntang has not been to Antarctica for a long time. Just because she doesn't like staying in that place doesn't mean that Zhu Huntang doesn't like Antarctica. She even thinks that the gate of Kyushu Fenglay Sword Gate should be located in Antarctica. She also likes the penguins and dinosaurs in Antarctica. But when playing in Antarctica, Zhu Huntang always had a sense of spatial dislocation with his head down, as if he was walking on the ceiling head down. I believe many people are like this. They feel like they are stuck headfirst to the ground when they go to Antarctica. Why does mother always stay in such a place? Does it have anything to do with Lu Chang'an? This is what Zhu Huntang needs to focus on. It's really suspicious when you think about it. Zhu Huntang is not only the person who knows Lu Chang'an the best, but he is also one of the people who knows him best. When it comes to things related to his mother and Zhu Huntang, Lu Chang'an behaves abnormally. He once confessed that he was entrusted by his mother to discipline Zhu Huntang on his behalf. This kind of discipline is all-encompassing. It disciplines Zhu Huntang in his studies and daily life, and even scolds Zhu Huntang when something goes wrong. Would this be the case with ordinary entrustments between friends? Zhu Huntang once wondered if it was because he wanted to dilute the label on her that he no longer called her little sheep frequently and did not try to deepen her understanding of the Mount identity. So that when he has undue thoughts about her, he feels less ashamed, as if he is not filled with undue desires to do whatever he wants with a sheep or a mount, and does not have such a strong sense of guilt, making it seem more normal. At that time, he denied it in a bad temper and spanked Zhu Huntang with a bamboo stick until his butt was swollen, which triggered the incident where he kissed his own butt to swear allegiance. Now that I think about it more carefully, I realized that I was right to be vigilant at the time. He had some intention of downplaying her cute labels such as BAA and Little Fairy Sheep. It's not that he has wild thoughts about Zhu Huntang, but he has already had an affair with his mother, which means that he is actually his stepdaughter. Many stepfathers are beasts, but judging from Lu Chang'an's love and care for Zhou Dongdong, he is not that kind of beast. So when he realized that he should treat Zhu Huntang as his stepdaughter, he found that he could no longer treat Zhu Huntang. Tang becomes a mount. That must be it. So now he is trying to be a responsible stepfather who can protect her and take care of her. In fact, except for those stepfathers who deserved their death, most stepfathers often have to be more indulgent and tolerant towards their stepdaughters in order to avoid the suspicion that they are not good to their stepdaughters. Of course, stepfathers and stepdaughters must be more careful and avoid suspicion when getting along with each other than biological fathers and daughters. Otherwise, if a label of abuse or bad treatment of the stepdaughter is thrown at them, their character will be doubted and their reputation will be affected. No wonder she is still alive and kicking now, it must be because he has treated her as a stepdaughter. Then wouldn't he be invincible in the future? However, I still have to pay attention to the rules as before. At most, I can ride on his neck and be domineering, but I can't shit on his neck, lest he jump like a frog, get angry, become nauseated and vomit blood, etc. My mother ran to Antarctica because she probably offended Lu Chang'an and was temporarily relegated to the sidelines. However, judging from Lu Chang'an's attitude towards Zhu Huntang, it is not impossible for my mother to rise to power again. As for why my mother was thrown into the cold palace in Antarctica, this is not surprising. With her character, she will definitely do things that break Lu Chang'an's bottom line. Zhu Huntang knows this very well. In terms of provoking Lu Chang'an, her mother is not as good as herself. Grasp. The key question is, when did mother and Lu Chang'an get together? Next, we should focus on investigating clues in this area. Zhongqing has the ability and high-level security system permissions to investigate more conveniently, but Zhu Huntang has no intention of looking for Zhongqing. In addition to being too loyal to his mother, Zhongqing is also a little vixen who flirts with Lu Chang'an under the tiger's whip. It is a good idea to let Zhongqing go to bed to replace the window period when her mother was sent to the cold palace in Antarctica. After all, Zhongqing is from the Zhu family, and she also has a younger sister Bai Hui who can help the Zhu family. This series is a solid favorite. What are you thinking about? Bai Hui just made a suggestion to use some beautiful movies to study, but at the same time she couldn't help but think, what if she and Lu Chang'an watched it together? When a girl is in love, her IQ will drop, but few people have mentioned it or noticed that girls are actually very smart when they only have a hoe in their head. Bai Hui's current strategy is to build a good relationship with Lu Chang'an step by step. Although they are not a couple, and they don't want to establish any bond with Lu Chang'an right away, it is necessary to increase their intimacy, just like reading a novel online. Before this novel is put on the shelves, readers will also vote for monthly recommendations. Reward or something. Maybe having a crush is like watching a pirated movie. You watch silently and know everything about your crush, but you don't dare to say anything or comment to their face. Even if it is a complete compliment, you may be greeted with a sneer of apprenticeship, and then was banned. Bai Hui doesn't want this, so she has to cultivate the intimacy between herself and Lu Chang'an, and she has been doing it step by step. I'm thinking that Jin Xiaomei is in a stage where she desperately wants my approval. At this time, it's often best to ask her to do things. She is even willing to make some sacrifices, violate the bottom line, do whatever it takes, sacrifice her appearance and so on. Zhu Huntang clicked. He nodded and said. She didn't say what she planned to ask Jin Xiaomei to do, because Bai Hui is a kind of simple-minded, naive, and timid fairy. She is different from a cruel fairy like Zhu Huntang, who does all kinds of evil and has deep thoughts. Tell Bai Hui the things he plans to investigate may cause harm to the timid fairy's immature mind. I'm going out. When she heard that she was looking for Jin Xiaomei to do something, Bai Hui didn't ask any more questions. She and Jin Xiaomei were not very familiar with each other. If Zhu Huntang was looking for Zhongqing to do something, Bai Hui would ask around. By the way, let me ask you something. What is the difference between stepfather and biological father? Zhu Huntang asked with a frown. How could Bai Fen know? She only has a biological father and no stepfather, but nowadays many girls like to call daddy. That one is definitely not the biological father, but stepfather. It seems that it is not. Bai Hui couldn't help but think. Could it be that Zhu Huntang's mother is planning to find a stepfather for her? Bai Hui hugged Zhu Huntang tenderly. Zhu Huntang seemed to lack not only mother's love, but also father's love. Even though she was a rich young lady, her life was not so perfect. Normally, Bai Hui envies Zhu Huntang the most, but if she had to exchange lives, Bai Hui felt that she wouldn't be willing to do so. She didn't want to lose her parents. Why are you hugging me suddenly? Do you think my mother has found a stepfather for me? Zhu Huntang touched Bai Hui's butt and nodded. Hey. You really guessed it right. Ah, Bai Hui opened Zhu Huntang's hand and lowered his voice. No way, what kind of man can be your stepfather? Lu Chang'an's kind. You're not serious, your mother is making random jokes, be careful she grounds you again, Bai Hui said and walked towards the door. Zhu Huntang was often grounded, but she has not been treated like this since the Lunar New Year. Zhu Huntang touched the sheep's ears on the top of his head and watched Bai Hui walk out. He suddenly felt a little unhappy. If Lu Chang'an was his stepfather, would he have to call his concubine's aunt? No, I will find Dan Dan later and ask Dan Dan to accept me as my goddaughter, so that I can be on an equal footing with Lu Chang'an. Thanks to Ning 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 for the generous reward of 300,000 starting coins. The boss is generous and wishes the boss immortality and eternal life. I would also like to thank many other book friends for their tips, especially those with familiar ids, such as the complete collection of dancing videos, etc. When Xiahua wrote "Sister falling in love with me" on Weibo, Xiahua would often give tips when she updated. Do you know how many years it lasted? Xiahua is not a good author, but she has many good book friends. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 883. Bai Hui walked out of the door and caught some special figures with the corner of his eye. He lowered his head and pulled the front part of his pajamas while muttering something about Zhu Huntang. Lu Chang'an walked to Bai Hui and heard Bai Hui talking about Zhu Huntang being so annoying and staining her beautiful pajamas with lipstick. Girls' pajamas are often simple and elegant, and some are very cute and fluffy, often in the shape of cartoon animals, a bit like Zhu Huntang's doll clothes. There were some exceptions to what Bai Hui wore. She came to dance yesterday and didn't bring her own pajamas, so she found one at Zhu Huntang's place. It was originally a nightgown that was slightly thin but still girlishly pure. However, due to the difference in figure between the two people, the effect of wearing it was completely different. Her chest was pushed up high, and the front hem of her nightgown was pulled up a lot as a result. It made her feel a little more interesting. She had bare feet and legs, and the mist particles filled the wide corridor around her. Wandering, like a fairy preparing to take a bath. Interestingly, when fairies take a bath, they either meet cowherds or woodcutters, have their clothes hidden, or are molested by pigs. I don't know if the fairies have learned their lesson and honestly take a bath in heaven. Maybe there must be more perverts in heaven. Ah, why are you here? Bai Hui almost passed by and found Lu Chang'an. He smeared the lipstick mark on his chest twice in a panic while holding down the hem of the skirt in front to prevent it from being exposed. Of course I am here. Whether it is Jin Xiaomei, Zhu Huntang, or Shang Guandandan, there is a possibility that each of them will not tip you off, but the possibility that none of the three will tip you off is almost impossible. 0. Lu Chang'an frowned and looked at the lipstick mark on Bai Hui's chest. This, you must have put it on deliberately. What, you, 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 you are talking nonsense about. How could I would do it on purpose. Bai Hui felt that she could deny it righteously, but her cheeks turned red and she stuttered when she spoke. Because you were complaining that Zhu Huntang soiled his clothes just now, which seemed very artificial. You came over to play yesterday. It was an emergency. It was impossible to bring pajamas with you beforehand. Since you were wearing Zhu Huntang's pajamas and Zhu Huntang soiled them, what do you have to complain about? Lu Chang'an knew very well, since it was applied on purpose. Why did you apply it on the pajamas instead of inside? It will attract people's attention, but the effect is better. Speaking of the temptation of women, man, I have a poem that clearly expresses the subtlety and half-covering of female lust, which is more. You still said that. Bai Hui raised his hand and covered Lu Chang'an's mouth. His chest was heaving up and down. He was really furious. He had been thinking carefully about it. No, he was reluctantly cooperating with Zhu Huntang's plan. He could see through it. That's it, he actually exposed it directly. There was nothing wrong with exposing her directly. In short, he understood her intentions, but he didn't take her seriously at all. Instead, he told her what to do and read poems. However, like Zhu Huntang, he actually believed that lipstick should be applied inside. If he had known it, he would have listened to Zhu Huntang. The pervert is a bit perverted, but two people thought it was okay. After he cooperated vaguely, the three of them reached a consensus. Then it shouldn't be considered abnormal. Lu Chang'an stopped talking. The poem he was about to read was a little too erotic, but it was not as erotic as the poem Ode to Miss Bai's Tomb, continuation chapter 113. But when he saw Bai Hui, he actually recited poems to praise her and tried to recite poems. It was enough to show that Bai Hui had a good figure and was charming. You must know that in some cases, the word poetry is the name of the boudoir. A hint or a proxy for happiness. Seeing Lu Chang'an's eyes indicating that he would no longer recite poems, Bai Hui let go of his palms. There was a slight moisture in his palms, probably the traces left by his lips, teeth, and breathing. Although he didn't really hope, maybe one day he would be able to do this. The traces were left on the girl's lips, cheeks, and skin. Actually, this pajama is not very transparent, so it is very comfortable to wear at home. Bai Hui emphasized that even though he said someone had tipped off that he was here, she still didn't change her clothes, just because this was a good reason. Lu Chang'an was still a little embarrassed. Girls today are still shy, but they have regarded catering to men as a sufficient and necessary thing to do. Unlike the girls in the past, the first thing that came to mind was shyness. This is also what I said before. The young woman knows how to pat the young woman, and the young girl will only ask why Gaha becomes uncomfortable. How can girls today ask Gaha? Before they have a relationship with a boy, they have even regarded some in-depth erotic communication as a daily and must-accept standard for men and women. This is true. Bai Hui couldn't help but nodded. She had always been a little dissatisfied. Young women obviously had no advantage in front of girls. What young woman knew something, but what girl didn't understand? She was not an idiot. Oh, I understand. You formed this concept because of someone's personal demonstration, right? Bai Hui's eyes were red, like a little rabbit. She remembered knowing that Lu Chang'an and An Nuan went to Linan last year. Bai Hui, many scenarios come to mind. She felt at that time that men like Lu Chang'an, like programmers, only knew how to work hard, while An Nuan was one of those marketing people who, even if they were just starting out, would find ways to do a lot of tricks. Just like last night. Lu Chang'an stopped speaking abruptly. The joy of boudoir is a private matter and is not suitable to talk about, let alone in front of An Nuan's good friends. Fortunately, he still had a firm mouth and changed the topic in time. Just like last night, I thought of a meow musical instrument called Gaha. Gaha not only means what to do in northeastern dialect, but it is also a national musical instrument with a long history. People with no culture like you usually think that it's an erhu, but actually it just looks like. Was she very coquettish last night? Bai Hui interrupted Lu Chang'an's ramblings and asked through gritted teeth. She originally wanted to say wasn't she very coquettish, but considering that she and An Nuan were good friends, she still lets change it mainly to words of praise, and add some words of ridicule. With the phrase looking at the red makeup and plain clothes, she is extremely enchanting. Who dares to say that Bai Hui is not sincere in using praise to describe An Nuan? Just judging from Lu Chang'an's performance, it seems that it is a daily thing for him to appreciate An Nuan's enchantment. I don't know what is the difference between Lu Chang'an taking off his clothes and him normally, and I don't know if he takes possession of her under such circumstances. What does it feel like? Bai Hui felt a little sad in her heart, and couldn't help but think of many dog-licking jokes, but she didn't find them funny, but felt sad. But I don't think I'm a dog licker. After all, I don't lick Lu Chang'an. Instead, I often go against him, maintaining my reserve and pride. Okay, I occasionally let down my posture, but I still don't think I'm a dog licker. At best, they just want to prove their charm. Don't compete with her in everything. After all, you have no experience in this area and have no advantage. Lu Chang'an shook his head. An Nuan was originally very dirty. After getting closer and closer, she often likes to expose her true nature more and more. and Nuan is basically a genius in this regard. Even if he joins the former Zhu Fenglai sword sect, he is still extremely talented and can quickly rise from a trainee to an elder. It needs to be emphasized that it was the former Kyushu Fenglai sword sect. How do you know, if it comes to height, Bai Hui will admit it? This kind of thing depends on one's own performance, and Lu Chang'an has never seen Bai Hui's ability in this area, so Bai Hui is certainly not convinced. Okay, you win. I'm just more coquettish than her, Bai Hui couldn't help but get angry. Lu Chang'an was stunned for a moment, then laughed. Bai Fen reacted and stomped her feet heavily. Her already pink cheeks looked more like a naughty lamb with a layer of bright red lipstick on them. He still smiled. If this wasn't Zhu Huntang's place, if it were Bai Fen's small house, he would definitely let him taste cranberries, no, let him taste the taste of sheep's eggs. It just smelled bad, and Bai Hui planned to invite him to her room to eat mutton eggs next time, that's all. Lu Chang'an stretched out his finger and flicked Bai Hui's forehead, as if to dispel the random thoughts in her mind. Bai Hui touched her forehead, and now she just wanted to change clothes quickly. What? At this time, Zhu Huntang came over wearing a golden sheep suit and riding a balancing car that sprayed water mist in all directions. She stopped next to Lu Chang'an, nodded slightly, and informed, "Brother Lu, I won't go to class this afternoon. I want to take Tan Dan to Disneyland to play. I have already arranged to hang out." After saying that, Zhu Huntang left directly. Although the sheep ears on his head were shaking, Zhu Huntang was calm and did not look back at Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an held his chest. Bai Hui was a little hesitant to ask for leave in the afternoon and go play with Zhu Huntang, because Dan Dan would go too. Not only could he wear a low skirt and play like a little princess in Disney, but he could also deepen his friendship with Dan Dan. Many low girls like to play in Disney, and some poor low girls regard it as their dream to go to Disney. If you meet a low girl who always wears low-priced national brands, ask her to go to Disney. Maybe she will be your exclusive low girl when you come back. Low girls are often also Hanfa girls and JK girls. It is not difficult to occasionally guest star in cosplay roles. In the eyes of many mature or experienced men, they are very cost-effective. Bai Hui had already played with Zhu Huntang last year. That day, Lu Chang'an also posted a photo with An Nuan in the circle of friends with the text "My wife." Bai Hui also took a selfie of herself in the business class that day to show that she was a girl with a refined life and didn't need to care about other people's displays of affection. Bai Hui still remembered that day that Zhu Huntang had been complaining about how inconvenient domestic private jets were. Most commercial flights were medium-sized aircraft, with only business class and no first class. Bai Hui also learned a lot of useless knowledge about private jets. For example, buying a private jet yourself will not solve the problem of delays, because the Military and Aviation Bureau can control the flow if they want, and queue if they want you to. Are you going to play? Bai Hui decided to listen to Lu Chang'an's opinion, because Lu Chang'an had often skipped classes since high school. Bai Hui didn't know that Lu Chang'an was not satisfied with his grades last semester and was preparing to study hard. He would try not to skip classes if necessary. Lu Chang'an pressed his chest, as if he was trying to endure something, as if his chest would explode as soon as he let go. Seeing his restrained and extremely uncomfortable expression, Bai Hui worriedly supported Lu Chang'an and said, "Lu Chang'an, are you okay? Where do you feel bad?" I'm fine, I just can't control my ancient strength," Lu Chang'an said coldly, and out of the corner of his eye, the sheep on the balancing car just disappeared around the corner. Bai Hui saw that his expression was uncomfortable, but what he said made Bai Hui feel funny, and said angrily, "Don't forget to be talkative at all times. Why don't you go and have a look? Xiao Tang has his own medical room, and there is a doctor here. Zhu Huntang's medical room even has equipment for examining babies. Last time Bai Hui was examined by Zhu Huntang as a test subject. It's not necessary." When I was in Antarctica, I deconstructed and reorganized my body, making it unstable. It took a while for the active super life form to return to a peaceful state. A huge body like mine could originally move mountains and reclaim seas. It is actually not very easy to maintain the appearance of an ordinary person, Lu Chang'an explained. Under normal circumstances, even in the past many years, Lu Chang'an did not find it difficult, but since meeting Zhu Huntang, it has become difficult. With Lu Chang'an's experience, what has he not seen before? Just because I have never been a father, I have never seen such an annoying little bastard. No, who is her father? Lu Chang'an would rather be the father of Shang Guandandan and Zhou Dongdong than Zhu Huntang. What's more, Lu Chang'an is only a 19-year-old male college student now. He hopes that he has a state of mind and a strong spirit that suits his status, so mood swings are inevitable. Just a moment ago, his heart exploded due to Zhu Huntang's anger. As a result, the newly regenerated heart showed signs of exploding again. How could I be so vulnerable? Lu Chang'an fell into reflection. In the past, he saw some relatives and friends causing a lot of troubles in the process of raising children. He teased the spectators irrelevantly, and always felt that there was something wrong with other people's education methods. Or ridiculous. Now that I think about it, I am so ridiculous. Watching and experiencing it are completely different things, and the mood is completely different. Well, I always feel that Zhu Huntang must have been clever when he was born, but was ruined by Sumei's teachings. Isn't this conclusion a bit too harsh on Sumei? Zhu Huntang was more difficult for Lu Chang'an to deal with than Sumei. I remember when Sumei tried to stab him, but Lu Chang'an made her see blood that night. Can he use this method to deal with Zhu Huntang? In fact, Zhu Huntang had stabbed him countless times. This was the first creature that made Lu Chang'an's heart burst. No wonder she calls herself Immortal Sheep. In terms of the damage she caused to Lu Chang'an, she is indeed considered to be an immortal. But Lu Chang'an would not change his original intention so easily and give up on disciplining Zhu Huntang. If she dared not go to class this afternoon and go to Disneyland to play, Lu Chang'an would skin her. I wish I had a daughter like you. Lu Chang'an looked at Bai Hui, who was confused by words like body reorganization and super life form, and said softly with a sigh. Although Bai Hui is also a fairy, she has never caused harm to Lu Chang'an. She is the kind of fairy who is harmless to humans and animals, silly and cute. Think about how normal and ordinary Bai Hui is in front of her parents, just as ordinary as Lu Chang'an is an ordinary 19-year-old male college student. Bai Hui was stunned, and when she came back to her senses, she couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. Did he want her to call him daddy? Although it is very common for young people nowadays to joke about calling daddy and the like, between men and women who have a close but slightly ambiguous relationship, this seems a bit misleading, right? Maybe Anyuan will scream. Thinking of this, Bai Hui gritted her teeth and almost blurted out the word dad. I know how to call you grandpa. Let me learn from Calabash Baby and tell you, Goblin, let go of my grandpa. Grandpa? Give me back my grandpa. Thinking that he occasionally heard Zhu Huntang call grandpa, Bai Hui started to imitate it in a decent manner. The gourd baby. The girl's voice still retains a bit of childishness. When it is raised, it is very similar to the dubbing in cartoons. Lu Chang'an couldn't help but laugh. Nowadays, these girls who are deeply influenced by act culture, as long as they don't box, are not good, and are easy, they can still. It's really fun and cute. Seeing that Lu Chang'an smiled calmly and seemed to have no health problems, Bai Hui felt relieved and patted his cheeks and said, I'm going to change clothes. Let's eat together later. Secretary Jin has prepared your favorite mutton eggs. Secretary Kim prepared goat eggs. Lu Chang'an nodded, his opinion of Secretary Jin slightly improved. By this time, Zhu Huntang had already found Shang Guandandan. Just now, Zhu Huntang called Lu Chang'an brother Lu just because she was confident that Shang Guandandan would take her as his goddaughter. It did not mean that she had completed this major plot. Shang Guandandan was walking slowly towards Fairy Lake. She held the thermos flask high in her hands and drank heavily with her eyes closed. She had to drink all the wine in the thermos, and then put many drinks into it. Although he was a little confused after drinking, Lu Chang'an was not around, and Shang Guandandan was sleeping on his stomach without his back, so Shang Guandandan was barely awake now. Dan Dan, let's go to Disneyland in the afternoon, Zhu Huntang jumped off the balance car and said to Shang Guandandan happily. She was still a little excited. She had just provoked Lu Chang'an again, and she didn't know if he would catch up and beat her later, or throw her into the fairy lake. Shang Guandandan put down the thermos, opened her watery eyes, and thought for a moment about where Disney was. She seemed to have an impression. I have never been to this place. Oh, I remembered it. Shang Guandandan read an online novel on a girl's channel. In order to pursue the heroine, the hero booked a place called Disney. Then the heroine disliked the fireworks because they were not good looking. The hero put 6 walnuts, no, 6 nuclear bombs for the heroine to see. Do you have a nuclear bomb? Shang Guan asked calmly. Shang Guandandan knows what a nuclear bomb is and its power, but if Zhu Huntang had a nuclear bomb, he would definitely be able to do such a thing as releasing a nuclear bomb for fun. No, Zhu Huntang denied in confusion. Many weak bad guys will try to get nuclear bombs because they need to attract attention or try to use these things to achieve deterrence and self-protection. But people like my mother are powerful bad guys, and they are unwilling to use these things that are too troublesome. After all, my mother's ultimate goal is not the extinction or partial extinction of mankind, but, Zhu Huntang doesn't know what her ultimate goal is. Target. I have a nuclear power plant at home, and blowing it up would be about the same as a nuclear bomb. Dan Dan, do you want to blow up the nuclear power plant? Zhu Huntang frowned worriedly. She is a fairy, and she will occasionally be compassionate to others. Dan Dan naturally cares about human life. Zhu Huntang is trying to avoid Dan Dan. Even if he is a little angry, he will still try his best to save mankind. No, you're talking about the Disneyland. Are you going to Lu Chang'an? Shang Guandandan was worried that Zhu Huntang would be inspired to drop a nuclear bomb for fun, so he quickly diverted her attention. Zhu Huntang shook her head repeatedly. In fact, she had just mustered up the courage that humans only have in extreme states to provoke Lu Chang'an. How dare she ask Lu Chang'an to go to Disney together? She still had to exercise caution, and her mother's experience served as a warning on this point. Zhu Huntang didn't want to go to Antarctica and walk around headfirst all day, and the feeling of cerebral congestion was unpleasant. Then I won't go either. I only dare to go if Lu Chang'an goes there. If I go to a faraway place without him by my side, I will be very timid. Shang Guan pointed to his thermos pot in a daze, indicating his courage. Only so small. Zhu Huntang could understand, thought about it, and quickly sent a message to Lu Chang'an. Grandpa, I will go to class in the afternoon, I am so good. After being rejected by Dan Dan, he stopped going to Disneyland, brother Lu stopped shouting, and he had to go to class. Zhu Huntang doesn't feel much humiliation. Although she is a fairy, who can't learn how to bend and stretch in the face of a big devil like Lu Chang'an. Zhu Huntang can even bleat and resume his mount posture. Then Dandan, can you canonize me as a princess? How about Lu Chang'an being your moth and me being your female goose? Zhu Huntang asked expectantly. This is the key point, I will give you the candy house. Shang Guandandan nodded vigorously. From now on I will call you godmother. Zhu Huntang was very excited. The title godmother is classic and elegant. It sounds like a coquettish young lady in ancient times, which is interesting. I officially canonize you as a fairy. Shang Guandandan took a sip of wine and decided on the beauty of adulthood. She had always liked Zhu Huntang. Although she was not Shang Guandandan's daughter-in-law, she had always been very filial. She was originally the son of the dragon and grandson of the dragon. A slight promotion is also possible. But I am originally a fairy. Zhu Huntang was puzzled, but Dandan didn't know her fairy identity. Whether they are gods or immortals, they all need to be canonized, otherwise they are just wild gods and wild immortals. Do you know Mizu? Shang Guandandan asked, very knowledgeable. Zhu Huntang nodded. As the main god of the Poseidon faith centered on the southeastern coast, Zhu Huntang certainly knew that. She and her mother had also visited Mizu temple. Zhu Huntang was a fairy, so she often visited temples and worshipped Bodhisattva. When she first came to Junsha, she took Qinyan to Ningxiang to worship Buddha. Mizu was continuously consecrated by the emperors of the southern Song dynasty, and then she was promoted from a little god to the level of queen. Shang Guandandan gave different examples according to each person, which reflected her erudite knowledge reserve and superb educational skills. She saw Lu Chang'an educating Zhu Huntang, and she has already. I shook my head and sighed many times. I know. After you canonize me, Dandan, I will be the best fairy among fairies, Zhu Huntang said with sudden realization. Thinking that he had the same treatment as Mizu, Zhu Huntang couldn't help but want to look up to the sky. Well, at the same time, I canonize you as the void-slaying dragon flame immortal, the princess of the colorful glaze pure white fairyland. Shang Guandandan kept pace with the times and found a high-end, elegant title from the novels he usually came into contact with. Then do we want to have some kind of ceremony? Zhu Huntang flushed with joy, his little face was bulging, and he looked at Shang Guandandan with wide eyes. Shang Guandandan thought for a moment and took out 2 pieces of jade from his sleeve pocket. Zhu Huntang looked at the 2 pieces of jade. Intuitively, these 2 pieces of jade were very good. Zhu Huntang had a lot of pearls and jade. After seeing more, he naturally felt that they were not bad. As for the knowledge of identifying jade, Zhu Huntang did not have much knowledge. Anyway, the most important thing, she liked it and wanted it. As for the grade and type of jade, she didn't care. Shang Guandandan put down the thermos bottle he was holding, rubbed his eyes, and stared hard at the 2 pieces of jade. He pinched a hair and carved on the 2 pieces of jade the seal of the void, killing the dragon flame immortal and colorful colors respectively. The seal of Princess Baa of the pure white fairyland with glazed glass. Here you go. Many, many years later, when we rebuild the Han Empire, Lu Chang'an becomes the emperor again, I become the queen mother, and you become the eldest princess. Shang Guandandan handed the jade seal to Zhu Huntang, and then began to pour wine into his mouth. Zhu Huntang Yang was so proud that he invited Shang Guandandan to stand on the balancing car and ride through the clouds and fog all the way to the candy house, preparing to pay tribute to the queen mother. Lu Chang'an was sitting on the sofa and saw Zhu Huntang's text message. It seemed that it was not convenient to peel off her sheep's clothing today, but how could she settle for this? There will be plenty of opportunities and reasons in the future. Bai Hui went to change clothes. This girl, who was getting cuter and cuter, had a close affinity with Zhu Huntang. She spent the whole day thinking about things that had nothing to do with studying. After crossing his legs and adjusting his breath to strengthen his flesh and blood for a while, Lu Chang'an prepared to eat mutton eggs and walk to the banquet restaurant. Walking past Fairy Lake, Lu Chang'an thought of the lifeguard he met last time, who was very beautiful and had muscles like Chun-Li. So he took 2 steps inside and saw Humiji next to the swimming pool. Her muscles were very toned, but she did not have the brown-black skin that is common among bodybuilding enthusiasts. It was more in line with the aesthetics of ordinary people. Of course, this kind of muscle lines are still a bit unusual in the eyes of ordinary people, lacking the softness of ordinary women. As a lifeguard, Humiji was wearing a 3-point bikini. When she saw Lu Chang'an walking in, she felt a little embarrassed. She was wearing V-shaped swimming trunks, which are common in bodybuilding competitions, but few people wear such bold clothes in daily life. She recovered quickly, nodded and smiled at Lu Chang'an. "Mr. Lu. It's rare to see beauties like you in Junsha." "She's very pretty." Lu Chang'an nodded and praised. Even Li Hongfang's toned thighs and buttocks are similar to Humaji's style, but Li Hongfang's chest line and above are completely different. Not similar, too soft and feminine. This is purely a personal hobby of mine and has nothing to do with public aesthetics. I rarely hear people say that she looks good. Humaji was happy in her heart. Many people saw her figure. Even if they praised her, the curious taste in their eyes actually made her happy. She wasn't very comfortable. Lu Chang'an's eyes were very clean, clear, and transparent, full of pure appreciation and praise. Humaji even felt that he was treating himself as a work of art, allowing him to appreciate every detail carefully, which he could accept without feeling obscene. After all, he is a man who can suppress the eldest lady, so he is naturally extraordinary. "I didn't bring a camera. How about you take some photos for me if you have time," Lu Chang'an said. "In fact, there are many cameras here in Zhuhantang, but we really don't have much time today." "Okay, you can give me orders at any time." Humaji did not take the opportunity to ask for Lu Chang'an's contact information. Lu Chang'an only needed to give orders through Zhuhantang, and Humaji was on call at any time. "The salary you receive is too much, and you have to agree to it even if it is an extra special thing. Many times a high salary means you have to be a dog, and there is not so much off-duty time, personal privacy, and the like." Lu Yuwang walked out at this time. She had just experienced the surf swimming pool and was going to try the still water swimming pool here. She was wearing a white swimsuit. Although it was not as revealing as Humaji's, it was still very sexy. Her fair skin was stained with fine dewdrops, and the water lines flowing on her smooth waist gathered between her legs and dripped down. The delicate body exudes pure white light, which reminds people of the dreamy scene of a barefoot girl stepping on flowers and plants in the morning light with dew splashing on her. "Professor Lu, good afternoon." Lu Chang'an greeted his mother-in-law-to-be politely. Lu Yuwang was a little embarrassed, but she had been kicked into an open-air swimming pool by Lu Chang'an in winter. She should be more relaxed when wearing a swimsuit by the pool. She was a professor, so why did she need to koi and koi? An elegant professional woman must be generous and confident. What worries Lu Yuwang is whether Lu Chang'an will be more disappointed with An Nuan when he sees her figure like this. She shouldn't have thought this way, because Lu Chang'an shouldn't have compared her with An Nuan. What pervert would compare his girlfriend after seeing the figure of his prospective mother-in-law? But the key now is that Lu Chang'an is still Lu Jianxi. Lu Jians had always been obsessed with the campus beauty of Hunan University, so much so that when he changed his identity, he had to find An Nuan as his girlfriend to fulfill his long-cherished wish. So Lu Yuwang looked at Lu Chang'an with some deep meaning. There were some things he couldn't say directly, and he hoped he would understand them by himself. Humaji walked over and stood next to the swimming pool. The eldest lady's guests were all distinguished guests. This beautiful woman whose age was not obvious was actually a professor? I remembered. "I promised to help you make a swimsuit last year. I'll do it as soon as possible." Lu Chang'an thought about this from time to time, but Lu Yuwang didn't urge him. He was busy experiencing life as an ordinary male college student. "No time. It's a shawl." The two most beautiful clothes Lu Yuwang has ever seen in his life are both made by An Nuan. This makes Lu Yuwang feel a little unbalanced. She is where his feelings lie, so he has to make one no matter what. They were comparable, but in the end he only planned to make a shawl. Maybe this is reality. Feelings are just feelings after all. How can they be compared to the little white flowers in the heart? An Nuan is a delicate, pure little white flower, and naturally she is the most favored by Lu Chang'an. Yes, Lu Chang'an nodded, his eyes not lingering on Lu Yuwang's absolutely beautiful and enchanting body. "So what if the legs are long? Isn't it nice to be warm? So what if you have a thin waist? Isn't it nice and warm?" Lu Chang'an left calmly. After dinner in the afternoon, Shang Guandandan went to occupy the candy house, preparing to use the candy house as the Queen Mother's palace in the center of Bailong. Zhou Shuling delayed going to her rice noodle shop for most of the day. She had to go and have a look. She always felt a little uneasy if she didn't personally take charge. Lu Chang'an escorted her to school in Zhu Huntang's car. Lu Yuang was taken there by Zhu Huntang yesterday, and today he sent her back to the Orange Garden. After Lu Yuang got out of the car, Zhu Huntang waved the fairy wand, looked at Lu Chang'an cautiously, and put the fairy wand back into the box. Sitting in the car, Bai Hui felt that the atmosphere was a little tense. She looked at Lu Chang'an and then at Zhu Huntang. "Eat some chocolate." "I usually eat this chocolate when my subordinates make me angry." Zhu Huntang tore open 2 layers of gold foil and personally fed Lu Chang'an a piece of chocolate. Lu Chang'an didn't open his mouth at all, so Zhu Huntang took a silver stick and tried to pry open the corner of Lu Chang'an's mouth a little, and then stuffed the chocolate inside. Lu Chang'an glared at Zhu Huntang, snatched away the silver stick, and wanted to kill her with one stick. "Eat some sweets and you won't be so angry." Bai Hui felt that Lu Chang'an might beat Zhu Huntang at any time, so he quickly acted as a peacemaker. Firstly, he felt sorry for Zhu Huntang that he would bleed from being beaten, and secondly, he always felt how he felt when they were fighting. It was so intimate that Bai Hui also wanted to be spanked. It was just spanking and playing. Girls like to participate and don't like to be excluded. If you want to fight, just fight them all. Only the Zhu Huntang ones, but not the white fennel ones. Who wouldn't feel uncomfortable and feel that they are being treated differently? Lu Chang'an then opened his mouth and ate the chocolate that was not very sweet but was indeed delicious. The corner of his mouth touched Bai Hui's finger. He did not take a bite. After all, he was a man with strong self-control, even if the beautiful girl looked delicious. "It's delicious, and I won't try it easily." Bai Hui pinched her fingers. It felt so strange. Why was she so sensitive when his lips touched her fingers, as if she hadn't sang in the shower? So Bai Hui lowered his head, peeled the chocolate and ate it himself, and stuffed one into Zhu Huntang's hand. Seeing Lu Chang'an chewing, Zhu Huntang felt a little relieved now that he had eaten his own food. He patted Lu Chang'an's knee to express comfort. She was not very afraid. After all, she was now both his stepdaughter and his. My sister. Why did you call me Brother Lu?" Lu Chang'an never paid much attention to such nominal names. For example, now Zhou Dongdong calls him Brother Chang'an, and Lu Chang'an calls Zhou Shuling as Sister Zhou in front of outsiders, not Auntie Zhou. As for Shang Guandandan, who liked being a mother, but asked Zhou Dongdong to call Dandan sister, and at the same time Shang Guandandan also called Zhou Shuling his daughter-in-law, the confusion was even more difficult to sort out. If Zhu Huntang and others are added to the already chaotic relationship, it will be in a state of primitive chaos. But there is something different about Zhu Huntang after all. He could just call him Grandpa, but he still calls him Brother Lu. Only Li Hongfang likes to be called that. Dan Dan is my godmother. Today she canonizes me as the void-slaying dragon flame immortal and the colorful glaze pure white fairyland Bimea. Princess Zhu Huntang proudly took out the 2 jade seals and showed them to Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an frowned. Could this be considered a formal canonization? Not to mention that the Han Empire has been dead for 1,800 years. Shang Guandandan, the rotten and sluggish Queen Mother, has countless identities. It is these broken stones with titles engraved on them. Shang Guandandan probably carries hundreds of them with him, preparing for them. Canonizing others at any time, can such a casual thing count? Bai Hui, who was eating chocolate, was shocked. He quickly looked over and saw that Zhu Huntang actually accepted Shang Guandandan as his godmother. Is there any bottom line for this dog-licking thing? Bai Hui couldn't help but feel that all the girls in the world were being lickers, and she was the only one who was being reserved. She couldn't help but feel a little shaken. Is it the right thing to be a licker, and her own reserve was like a clown? As for Dandan liking Zhu Huntang so much and even canonizing Zhu Huntang as a princess or fairy, it seems that the game is more important. Bai Hui is not too jealous. After all, she has just started to become good friends with Shangguan Dandan, and Zhu Huntang he has been acting like a barker in front of Shangguan Dandan since very early on. It seems that Shangguan Dandan is more important than he imagined. Bai Hui knows very well that although Zhu Huntang likes to bleed, he is still a utilitarian capitalist in essence. Zhu Huntang's investment vision far exceeds that of ordinary people. I also want to be a fairy and a princess. Bai Hui sniffed and looked at the two jade seals with grievance and envy. Is there something wrong with your brain? Lu Chang'an cursed. You are the only one who is sick. Bai Hui hugged Zhu Huntang. How was this carved? Xiao Tang, do you recognize these characters? It seems to be ancient official script. I don't know. It's enough for me to know that I am an officially canonized fairy and Princess Zhu Huntang took out the ink pad and began to stamp her car. She decided to stamp everywhere to show her noble status. Lu Chang'an closed his eyes, out of sight and out of mind. First, he sent Bai Hui to their college, and then returned to the teaching building where the biology college held classes. Zhu Huntang promised to enter the classroom immediately. After watching Lu Chang'an enter, he summoned Jin Xiaomei. Go find Zhong Qing and ask her to give you access to investigate my daily life diary. At the same time, pay attention to my mother's official updates since last summer vacation, and the girl named Sunangziu. The key is my mother. The connection between Sunangziu and Lu Chang'an. Zhu Huntang said to Jin Xiaomei. Seeing Zhu Huntang's cautious expression, Jin Xiaomei took the order and left, feeling excited in her heart. Is the third lady going to use her as a confidant? You must do this at all costs. Zhu Huntang waited until Jin Xiaomei's car disappeared into the shade of the trees, then raised his hands, maintaining the cutest posture, and slowly walked into the classroom, sat next to Lu Chang'an and loudly baa to catch his idea, and then sat upright with his hands placed together. This chapter is used to thank you for your reward. It has been a long time since I have updated such a big chapter. Please give me your monthly votes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 884. Except when Zhu Huntang is in a private space, she is usually surrounded by people. She can record her daily words and deeds, especially who she meets and what formal activities she participates in. They are all recorded clearly. This is a system established by MRS and it has been going on continuously. Although it seems useless, it is very important information when investigating people and things related to her, and many clues can be found from it, so only Zhu Huntang reminded Jin Xiaomei to read her daily diary. Jin Xiaomei called Zhong Qing and worded her words carefully. She didn't want Zhong Qing to misunderstand anything, thinking that Jin Xiaomei was trying to compete for favors, or that she felt she was Zhu Huntang's confidant and was neglecting Zhong Qing. To Jin Xiaomei's surprise, Zhong Qing didn't ask any more questions and directly told Jin Xiaomei how to enter the security system to read Zhu Huntang's daily log. Jin Xiaomei breathed a sigh of relief, but she was worried about Zhong Qing's intervention and didn't know whether to tell Zhong Qing what Zhu Huntang wanted to investigate. Jin Xiaomei did not immediately check Zhu Huntang's daily life diary, but first saved the official updates of MRS Zhu-san. As the real head of the Zhu family, no one has the authority to thoroughly investigate her true identity. Whereabouts. So what attracts the most attention to Jin Xiaomei now is of course the mysterious Sunanjiu. The superficial information shows that she is from the Su family. The Su family married the Zhu family before liberation. Now the elder of the Zhu family, the ancestor, MRS Su, was the eldest lady of the Su family back then. It is precisely because the eldest daughter of the Su family brought a rich dowry, and the assets of the Su family and the Ye family were merged into the current Zhou family in the late period of the Liberation War, that the current Zhou family has a solid foundation to make a fortune. Then it is understandable that the descendants of the Su family received preferential treatment from the Zhou family and even took care of Mrs. Su personally. I wonder if the Ye family has any descendants. It is said that the property that the Ye family gave to Mrs. Su was really wealthy as a country. Sunangxiu took leave after one semester at Hunan University, but Jin Xiaomei easily found out that Sunangxiu was close to a boy named Guan Yuan during his time at Hunan University. Before meeting Sunangxiu, Guan Yuan had an ordinary life, an ordinary college student. However, after further investigation by Jin Xiaomei, she discovered that after Sunangxiu dropped out of school to investigate aliens, Guan Yuan also dropped out, and he actually became a gang boss in Brazil. This gang boss has returned to China in a low-key manner and is currently in Juncha. Let's start with Guan Yuan. Jin Xiaomei had an idea. Zhu Huntang maintained her obedient posture until the teacher came in and started class. After she concentrated for a minute, she felt sleepy and lost all energy. The teacher's voice was as boring as Zhong Qing's report on the company's project, and the murmuring tortured Zhu Huntang's eardrums. However, the muscles of the body lost strength and the bones became sore. Zhu Huntang felt as if he had been hit by a bone-changing palm, little by little. She was paralyzed under the desk, unable to maintain the elegant posture of a little fairy. In order to get rid of this state, Zhu Huntang quickly shook her head and took out her 2 seals to divert her attention. Sure enough, as long as his mind was not focused on listening to the lecture, he felt as if he had been reborn. Zhu Huntang suddenly became energetic with 2 jade seals in his hands. He first stamped the cover, title page, sides, and bottom of his book. After covering your own, of course you have to cover Lu Chang'an's. Stepfather, as the name suggests, allows you to inherit everything from him. Then his textbooks should also be stamped with Zhu Huntang's seal to declare ownership. After changing the seals in Lu Chang'an's books under Lu Chang'an's cold gaze, Zhu Huntang thought that since Lu Chang'an was her stepfather, she should also stamp him to show that she accepted this relationship, which was very formal and far-reaching. Meaning. But where is it covering him? Zhu Huntang casually stamped 2 stamps on the back of his hand, and then felt a little satisfied. The extraordinary person finally became the property of the little fairy. This is indeed the Beam universe, and everything is under his control. Lu Chang'an glanced at the 2 seals on the back of his hand and remembered that Zhou Dongdong would draw a watch or something on his wrist whenever he had something to do. He shook his head almost imperceptibly. Is Zhu Huntang's true age the same as Zhou Dongdong's? Almost. People often say that 1 year old for cats and dogs is equivalent to how many years a human is. For a special creature like Zhu Huntang, 19 years old is actually only equivalent to 3 human years, right? This thought surprised Lu Chang'an. He was actually actively looking for reasons for Zhu Huntang's hopelessness. Doesn't this mean that Zhu Huntang's performance has made Lu Chang'an feel powerless and he has to find some reasons to ease his frustration? No, a mere little sheep actually caused physical, psychological, and even mental damage to Lu Chang'an, blowing and shaking him repeatedly. Lu Chang'an calmed down and looked at Zhu Huntang expressionlessly. I actually want to put a stamp on one side of your chest, just like you Fei, Zhu Huntang said regretfully, reaching out and patting his chest to help him calm down. Zhu Huntang has many pets. I have rich experience. When the little animals are about to explode, just touch their chests like this, and the effect is very good. Yu Fei is a national hero. If you lack respect for such a national hero, you will forget your ancestors and be the lowest among the humble. Lu Chang'an paused, but I know you are simply uneducated. Yu Fei didn't have a stamp on his chest, he was tattooed on the back are 4 words, serve the country with loyalty. Zhu Huntang raised his head and thought about it. It turned out that there were words on his back, not on his chest. He couldn't help but be surprised. Is it like a tattoo? If I were tattooed for the first time, I would have screamed in pain. I also want to tattoo 4 characters on you. Lu Chang'an wanted to do it now. Zhu Huntang quickly put away his jade seal. Lu Chang'an didn't have any tools at hand, so it was impossible to stab her. But with his style, it was entirely possible to snatch the jade seal and seal pad and stamp her whole body. What words do you want to tattoo? After putting away the jade seal, Zhu Huntang was still a little curious. The shame of Xiangda. I don't want it. It's just a shame for mankind. Zhu Huntang was very dissatisfied and bumped Lu Chang'an 3 times with his forehead. The shameful pattern of Xiangda is too low. Xiangda is just a place where Xianmei grew up and played. It is used to educate and influence Lu Chang'an. In the long run, it becomes a tool to indirectly or directly control him. It has no special and important status. In order to facilitate the admission of Zhu Huntang and the convenience of her own projects, Ms. Zuzan became a donor and school director of many famous schools. Since the beginning of this century, Ms. Zuzan has been paying attention to Hunan University and has made large donations. It is a natural thing for Zhu Huntang to enroll in Hunan University this time. Ms. Zuzan also continued to donate the library and scientific research building and invest in it very carefully. Some projects. If Zhu Huntang is still allowed to use beautiful women, money, etc. to corrupt and control the school leaders, and Zhu Huntang becomes the boss of the entire Xiangda University, then Zhu Huntang will be a little bit willing to bear the title of the shame of Hunan University. Shame on mankind? Are you still a human being? Lu Chang'an said angrily. The fairies who open their mouths and keep their mouths shut all day long, don't forget, you are still the sheep protector of the holy maiden of the 9 provinces Fengling sword sect, on the same level as Lu Xin. Zhu Huntang felt a little uncomfortable. She had to join the party before she could become a saint of the Zhu Fenglai sword sect, but she hadn't written the application yet. Even after she finished it, she still needed to be examined for a semester. It is said that he has to perform well during the inspection period. Zhu Huntang continues to defend the last place in the grade. Is this considered a good performance? Although Zhu Huntang feels that he can succeed in the end, if his academic performance is too poor, once someone is dissatisfied and posts on the internet, saying that Hunan University has developed the last one in the grade into a party member, and dug out some background information of Zhu Huntang, it is inevitable that somewhat troublesome and passive. In fact, it is not a big trouble, but just like taking pictures, if you can prepare well in advance, put on makeup, and make it look beautiful, the difficulty of retouching the pictures in the later stage will be much lower. It seems that he can find a dozen superhumans with enhanced bodies in the laboratory, let them collectively have a car accident, and then he can pass by and save a dozen or 20 people at once. This must be enough for qualifications. The grades are a little short, and there is nothing to say to others. The specific operations can be left to Zhongqing, who can mobilize the experimental subjects. Jin Xiaomei does not have that authority, the specific plan to save people and publicize it. You can leave it to Jin Xiaomei. After thinking of a way, Zhu Huntang, who had been a little depressed just now, suddenly became noble, folded his hands in front of his chest, raised one leg and put it on Lu Chang'an's knee. Lu Chang'an straightened his legs. Zhu Huntang's silk stockings were smooth and delicate. They slipped off as soon as they were put on. Zhu Huntang took the opportunity to step on Lu Chang'an's instep. That's wrong, Zhu Huntang spoke quickly before Lu Chang'an turned to glare at her, diverting his attention. Don't forget, Dandan is already the deputy sect leader, and my good sister Qinyanan is the elder of the section. Dongdong regards me as a fairy, and another protector, Lu Sin, was also my dog. You want to rebel? Lu Chang'an dismissed Zhu Huntang's power, a bunch of local chickens and dogs. Zhu Huntang has never hidden his desire to rebel. It is not surprising that Lu Chang'an can see it. Zhu Huntang just wants Lu Chang'an to recognize the reality clearly. We can unite you and make you a bachelor. Dandan once said, after deposing you as the emperor, it will be natural to depose you as the sect master. Qin Yanan is your little wife, but she also listens to Dandan. I will use a buffet hill to control the Dong Dong, and use bones if you control Lu Sin. This sect will be my world. Don't forget Li Hongfang, she is very capable of doing things. Capture the king first. If she gets rid of you, your rebel group will fall apart. Lu Chang'an thought for a while. Qin Yanan, Shangguan Dandan, and others might really be killed by Zhu Huntang. They would do whatever they want, but Li Hongfang wouldn't. Zhu Huntang pressed her hands a little harder to show that she was more open-minded, and frowned. She really did not consider the existence of Li Hongfang, the old tea cake. She and Qin Yanan decided on the title of old tea cake together. But this is not a problem. Qin Yanan said that Li Hongfang used to be her mother's subordinate. When her mother comes back from Antarctica, Li Hongfang will naturally have to listen to Zhu Huntang's orders, and Lu Chang'an will be in danger. Ha ha ha. Thinking of this, Zhu Huntang couldn't help laughing. Zhu Huntang, why are you laughing? Is my class funny? The teacher said unbearably. Teacher, I'm sorry, it was Lu Chang'an who made me laugh just now, Zhu Huntang quickly explained. Lu Chang'an took a deep breath and reminded himself that it was not good to hit someone in class, and it was even worse to tear off her skirt and socks when attracting everyone's attention. Laugh again, the teacher continued the class without saying anything else. The teacher thought to himself that this Zhu Huntang really didn't know anything at all. He always liked to hang out with Lu Chang'an. He didn't think about it carefully. Even if Lu Chang'an was not the most serious student in class, he got perfect marks for this class last semester. What about you? After the first class, the students saw Lu Chang'an reaching out to grab Zhu Huntang's neck and pushing her out of the classroom. Zhu Huntang was dancing and resisting, while grabbing the desks, chairs, and walls and struggling, but she was still powerless and could only yell and scream. When Zhu Huntang came back to class again, Yan Qingcheng, who was sitting in the front row, noticed that Zhu Huntang had the same cute and pitiful look on his face that he was used to seeing, crying and aggrieved. Lu Chang'an didn't do anything to her. He just snatched her jade seal, erased the words Shangguan Dandan and re-engraved the words shame on humanity to satisfy her. He unzipped the back of her fairy skirt and put it on her. The words shame on humanity are printed all over the back. Presumably after such an education, she will clearly remember that the words euphasai are also written on the back. Lu Chang'an only wanted to educate her about traditional history and culture. Isn't it too much? Thank you everyone for your generous reward. Thank you Ning 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 for your reward of 100,000 points, I wish the boss will live forever and never die. Thanks for the reward for the big 10,000 word chapter tomorrow. By the way, please give me a monthly ticket. It seems that I am expected to receive 3,000 monthly tickets this month. Xiahua can draw prizes 3 times. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Can Ru Xiahua. Chapter 885. Yan Qingcheng sat inside and asked Zhu Huntang to sit with her. Under normal circumstances, after Zhu Huntang was taken care of, she would still sit next to Lu Chang'an, but sometimes she would sit next to Yan Qingcheng and scold him first. Excuse Lu Chang'an's cruelty and cruelty. At this point, Yan Qingcheng had to admire Lu Chang'an. How could he kill such a beautiful and lovely girl like Zhu Huntang? In his hands, Zhu Huntang was like various insects caught by a child, such as beetles, grasshoppers, hard-shelled insects, etc. He could play with them at will and wreak havoc, eventually dying. In fact, this is a person who is willing to fight and a person who is willing to suffer. Yan Qingcheng can't say anything, but she is now Zhu Huntang's tutor. She has more contact with Zhu Huntang and loses the sense of alienation that she keeps away from the rich and wealthy young ladies. I felt that Zhu Huntang was actually very cute, just like a naive child, a little naughty but very lovable. Zhu Huntang gave people a much better impression than her little cousin. No matter how much money she gave, Yan Qingcheng felt that there was an air of coldness about Sunangxiu that forced her to keep her distance. "What's going on today?" Yan Qingcheng gently stroked Zhu Huntang's back. Lu Chang'an was really not a human being. He was crying like someone who had his New Year's money confiscated and set off firecrackers, had his hands rolled in new clothes and was beaten in the mud. Childlike. Lu Chang'an, you bullied me again." Zhu Huntang's shoulders twitched. A person can be stubborn and strong, but when gentleness comes, he will feel even sadder. Lu Chang'an is not a qualified stepfather at all, he is already suspected of abuse. What's more, many adult men would avoid suspicion in front of their grown-up daughters, but he didn't regard her as a girl at all, and actually ruined her intimate clothes so casually, euphemistically calling it, skinning a sheep. It was certain that he was bullied by Lu Chang'an. Yan Qingcheng sighed and comforted, he also means well, but he hates iron. How important is advanced mathematics? You got a 0 last semester. You do, you know. In the first class, the teacher caught Zhu Huntang laughing in class. Zhu Huntang also said that Lu Chang'an made her laugh. At that time, Yan Qingcheng knew that Zhu Huntang was going to suffer. Except for those who didn't have time to take the exam, Zhu Huntang's 0 score was the lowest score on record. She was also an old unlucky person. She took all the multiple choice questions and didn't get a single one right. It's ridiculous. Many of our supercomputers are at the top of the world's supercomputer rankings every year. Why do we still need to learn mathematics? Zhu Huntang was incomprehensible and angry. If I still want to learn advanced mathematics, then what are those computers used for? What are you doing, buying some to boil water? Zhu Huntang lacks common sense, but his vision is not low. In Zhu Huntang's eyes, supercomputers are still very important. Last time I watched The Adventures of Gongxian Yang Yang in Chang'an with Bai Hui, and there was a project about E-class supercomputing in it. Zhu Huntang approved it and made additional investment. Studying is learning. Even if its purpose is just to pass the exam, that is its purpose and has nothing to do with the other things you mentioned, Yan Qingcheng earnestly advised. The gap between you and the average classmate in advanced mathematics is, it will probably take several years to make up for it, so we will take our time. In order to make up for the lessons, Yan Qingcheng also brought in textbooks from middle and high schools. Advanced mathematics requires a solid mathematical foundation, and it is impossible to start learning halfway like a loft in the sky. Zhu Huntang's mathematics level is at the level of a primary school student or a junior high school student. Yan Qingcheng must start tutoring her from basic courses. This is a very arduous task. Fortunately, the money given is so much that she can only work hard without complaining. No regrets. In a sense, it is indeed a waste of time for Zhu Huntang to take advanced mathematics classes now. She cannot understand it at all. No matter how carefully she listens, it is equivalent to listening to heavenly scriptures. Lu Chang'an should understand this truth. He may just be dissatisfied with Zhu Huntang's tired attitude. I have to think of a clever way to get back in trouble. Zhu Huntang frowned and rolled his eyes. Yan Qingcheng shook his head and sighed. No wonder Lu Chang'an sometimes said that Zhu Huntang was like a sheep, but other animals like monkeys, elephants, dogs, etc. would not have such a short memory. Suddenly I felt that Zhu Huntang was actually more like Big Wolf, while Lu Chang'an was like Pleasant Goat. Thinking about it this way, which girl around Lu Chang'an looks like the green tea goddess Mei Yang Yang? Hard to say. Zhu Huntang thought hard, made plans, and strategies based on known information. When the plans and strategies that can be formulated with known information no longer work, it means that you do not have enough information. This is the time to get the latest information. In the past, Zhu Huntang used his knowledge of Lu Chang'an to deal with him. The information that exposed his shortcomings or could be used by Zhu Huntang was basically out of date. This is the timeliness of information. In the information age, it is important to master information, but the timeliness of information often affects whether decisions are wise or powerful. Zhu Huntang saw a Yan Qingcheng in the corner of his eye. Zhu Huntang suddenly had an idea. Lu Chang'an and Yan Hui met yesterday. Can the relevant information become the basis for new plans and strategies? No. Zhu Huntang suddenly realized a problem. Aren't Lu Chang'an and Yan Hui just like Lu Chang'an and his mother? In other words, Lu Chang'an is not only Zhu Huntang's stepfather, but also Yan Qingcheng's stepfather. If Yan Qingcheng is aware of this relationship, he might compete with Zhu Huntang for favor. Zhu Huntang suddenly felt a lot of crisis. It seemed that his current strategy was not to torture Lu Chang'an, but to quietly compete for favor. There are some elements of palace fighting involved here. Sure enough, the most important thing is to have Dandan's support at any time. Zhu Huntang didn't think of how to make Lu Chang'an love his little fairy even more, but he thought of Shangguan Dandan's professionalism and importance of palace fighting. Seeing, I gave a candy house to Dandan today. Sure enough, Zhu Huntang is prescient and can always show his wise and powerful intuition intentionally or unintentionally. Today's makeup class will take place in Bai, Hunan University, where your mother and Professor Lu Jianxi met yesterday. Zhu Huntang decided not to go to the Beilong Center for class, and Dandan had to go to the Beilong Center. If Yan Qingcheng often went to the candy shop, Yan Qingcheng might have become a master of Gongda due to his frequent contact with Dandan. Ah, you know what happened yesterday? Oh, that's right, you borrowed the villa. It seems that when we went to the agricultural and forestry base before, you told us that your family and Lu Chang'an were family friends. Yan Qingcheng thought of her past. Several speculations about the life backgrounds of Lu Chang'an and Zhu Huntang. Zhu Huntang nodded, stood up and walked back. At the critical moment, he still had to endure the humiliation and make sure to hold his thighs tightly. Seeing Zhu Huntang walking towards Lu Chang'an's seat holding her skirt, Yan Qingcheng shook her head as usual. Tong 11, who was sitting on the other side of the aisle, squeezed over and sat in Zhu Huntang's seat just now. Didn't you notice? Tong 11 lowered his voice and said a bit gossipy. What did you find? The relationship between Yan Qingcheng and Tong 11 was okay. It was easy for girls to get along with each other on the surface. Yan Qingcheng is the squad leader, and Tong 11 is the more active among the girls. When there are activities or things to do, Yan Qingcheng often calls Tong 11. Tong 11 also pulled up her skirt, then put her arms around Yan Qingcheng's neck and said in her ear, I looked over there just now and found blood stains on Zhu Huntang's stockings on the inner thighs. She's here to be her aunt, Yan Qingcheng guessed casually, looking at Tong 11 from side to side. Tong 11 definitely didn't think it was the sign of her aunt. If it was her aunt, why would there be such a fuss? This is not the first time a little boy has discovered that his sister or the girl at the same table is bleeding. It's not like, a young lady like her, whose menstrual period is recorded and taken care of, how could she casually soil her stockings? Tong 11 shook her head. In fact, in this matter, the young lady might soil her panties and pantyhose, skirts and the like, because sometimes the calculations are really inaccurate, and no one has a routine that is exactly on time every month. Especially now, some girls have extremely irregular schedules, which may be affected by smoking, drinking, and staying up late. Then what do you mean? Yan Qingcheng turned around and glanced behind him. Lu Chang'an was relaxing with his eyes closed as if in trance. Zhu Huntang was sitting next to him, banging his head and pushing him like a cat or dog trying their best to attract their owner's attention. Dogs strive to be petted on the head or belly. I don't mean anything, it's just that Lu Chang'an took her out just now, and then she came back looking like she was bleeding. Tong 11 saw Yan Qingcheng's face change slightly, and quickly added, I see you and Lu Chang'an, Zhu Huntang, the two of us have a good relationship, so I'm just gossiping with you, I don't have any other intention, I won't talk nonsense everywhere. Yan Qingcheng still remembered that she once asked Zhu Huntang whether Lu Chang'an had any other relationships with men and women besides An Nuan, his real boyfriend, and his lover Qin Yanan, who was well documented. Zhu Huntang stretched out 10 fingers and said that Lu Chang'an had at least had sex with 100,000 yuan. A woman. Although the style is exaggerated as always, after Zhu Huntang's certification, Lu Chang'an's lack of restraint in matters between men and women should not be unfair to him. Even so, Yan Qingcheng's impression of Lu Chang'an is still not too disgusting, because capable and charming men seem to be a little unable to control their lower bodies in this regard. Anyway, as long as she is not deeply involved, she has no right to point out others. Guidance, as long as Lu Chang'an doesn't force others. Yan Qingcheng is a little curious about whether Lu Chang'an's women know each other's existence, or whether they can explain clearly the relationship between Lu Chang'an and other women. If each other knew each other's existence, what kind of way would they get along with each other? Thinking of this, Yan Qingcheng sighed softly. She was already a little suspicious. The relationship between her mother and Professor Liu seemed to be so unclear. Maybe her mother was just one of Professor Liu's women, just like Qin. The teacher is just one of classmate Liu's many women. Yan Qingcheng has already clearly realized that romantic men are more popular, and honest men are not naturally popular, they are just the last choice. This final choice is not a satisfying decision after realizing the goodness of an honest man, it is more about being helpless with the sad and regretful emotions after falling in love with a man like Lu Chang'an and then being abandoned. Realistic compromise. Women always think that they are the heroines in love novels. How many honest and dull men are the male protagonists? Usually it's just the number 2 or number 3 male. Only honest women will want to find an honest man from the beginning, and after meeting a romantic man, many honest women often realize that they have lived in vain for the first half of their lives, and they become even more attracted to the flames. Yan Qingcheng has never been in love, but she has seen many such stories in the rural town where she grew up, especially her mother's story, which reminds her. Yan Qingcheng turned around again. Zhu Huntang no longer had to headbutt Lu Chang'an. He actually used all his strength to pull Lu Chang'an's middle finger on the back of his hand. Yan Qingcheng was a little shocked. Even though Lu Chang'an was very strong and capable of fighting, Yan Qingcheng looked back. He's like a master in martial arts novels, but he can't stand the torture, right? It seems that my mother is going to meet with Professor Liu today. Should she talk to classmate Liu? She has no plan for what to talk about specifically. She just feels that she wants to talk to Lu Chang'an, and she has some inexplicable emotions in her heart. But looking at Zhu Huntang's entangled appearance, Lu Chang'an probably doesn't have much time to deal with Yan Qingcheng, whom he is only familiar with. Maybe it's the sealant. Yan Qingcheng thought for a moment, rubbed the back of his neck, twisted his neck, and said to Tong 11, I looked back a few times during the last class, and Zhu Huntang seemed to be playing with a seal, stamping everywhere. Lu Chang'an likes to treat others with his own medicine, so he might poke Zhu Huntang a few times with his seal. Zhu Huntang is really just like a primary school student. Tong 11 retracted her gossip about the obscene secrets and felt that Yan Qingcheng's analysis conclusion might be closer to reality, but she couldn't help but said, then do you think that seal should be it will be the correct word? Yan Qingcheng rolled her eyes at her. As soon as a girl comes into contact with the two-dimensional cultural circle, isn't it easier for girls to accept those stinking secrets of humiliating women? Hee, but you always pay more attention to Lu Chang'an. Tong 11 smiled. There were only a few girls in the class. Many times, girls from other classes would join in the gossip discussion meetings. The topic often focused on Lu Chang'an. In fact, everyone is paying more attention to Lu Chang'an, not just Yan Qingcheng. Yan Qingcheng was already immune to such teasing. She smiled and flipped through the book without saying anything. In the afternoon weather in Juncha, it was difficult to see the long blue sky. A cloud of fog lingered on the top of Bailong Center, a landmark building in the city. Ma Benway walked out from the reception door on the first floor of the hotel and looked at the width from the door to the street. It actually seemed to surpass the most crowded and prosperous road in the county in front of me. In an absolute city center location, with such an open area surrounded by a square, is the treatment given to Bailong Center by Juncha too generous? Ma Benway looked at his Bentley parked in the distance and the street lights next to him. He was a little lucky that he was just an anchor, while his brother stood up when he was beaten and apologized immediately when he offended people. He was very aware of current affairs. Even if he was a little ambitious, he was not too ambitious. Excessive. A behemoth like the Zhu family is much more low-key and pragmatic than many emerging wealthy people. There are no corporate groups in the country that are too big to fail. The Zhu family still has no signs of relying on investment in its dealings with the mainland. This is probably due to the wisdom left by the more than 100-year-old lady from the Zhu family. Ma Benway knew that he had to be honest when meeting Zhu Huntang, but he was actually not very afraid of the Baojun group and the Zhu family behind Zhu Huntang. As a second-generation official, only Qin Yinan would keep him at a distance. But in fact, I would rather offend Qin Yinan than Zhu Huntang, even if you offend someone like Qin Yinan, as long as you honestly apologize, admit your mistake, and behave in a correct manner, she will not argue with you anymore. The last time Ma Benway was dealt with by Qin Yinan, Ma Benway apologized and admitted his mistake, and after obtaining Lu Chang'an's understanding, Qin Yinan later saw Ma Benway on some occasions, and never gave Ma Benway a look, and even nodded hello. It's hard to say that people like Zhu Huntang are not as rule-abiding as Qin Yinan. They are too willful and willful. No one can predict the consequences of offending her in the future. Standing in front of the Bailong Center building named after Zhu Huntang, Ma Benway thought about Qin Yinan and Zhu Huntang. He saw a tall young woman wearing a short skirt walking out carrying a hotel bag, and chatted up, "Beauty, do you want to take another order?" "What?" The young woman was stunned for a moment and looked at Ma Benway inexplicably. "If you checked in yesterday and checked out today, it is a bit too late to check out at this time. Even if you check out late at this hotel, it rarely exceeds 3 p.m. Ma Benway looked at the bags in the young woman's hands. Many of them were of slightly higher quality. Hotels will prepare exquisite handheld paper bags with the hotel logo printed on them for guests to use. "What does it have to do with you?" the young woman asked strangely, but the young man in front of her was indeed quite handsome, and he was wearing a Patek Philippe on his hand, so it didn't look fake. "If you check in today and check out now, given the popularity of this hotel, it is impossible to check in early, which means you will stay in the room for up to 2 hours. And I think the other possibility is greater. Someone today I checked in the afternoon, called you to make an order, and then you left. Many girls like to take a hotel paper bag away after completing the order," Ma Benway said clearly. The young woman reacted and became furious. She threw the paper bag in her hand and hit Ma Benway on the head. There was a heavy object in the paper bag. Ma Benway felt pain and fell to the ground with a cry. The young woman kicked him hard again. "I'm afraid you are a little precious. Your mother and I booked a top-level suite. I took the high-speed train at 6 o'clock in the evening. The hotel took the initiative, help me with late checkout." After saying that, in order not to delay the high-speed train, the young woman left in a hurry. Ma Benway lay on the ground for a minute, then he got up in embarrassment and walked slowly to the street lamp on the side. There was a camera installed inconspicuously on the street lamp. Ma Benway took out his mobile phone and said, "Brothers, I didn't expect to meet such a violent woman, she almost killed me, give me a wave of 666, my car didn't stop next to me, otherwise I don't think she would kick me like this." He is live streaming. Juncha, an internet celebrity city, is full of people broadcasting live broadcasts on their mobile phones. Scenes like this are often staged in prosperous, remote, fashionable, and dirty corners and streets. Especially in this location in the city center, you can meet the crowd of live broadcasters in 3 or 2 steps. It is not uncommon to take a photo on the bar street and squeeze in a dozen or 20 anchors. At this time, a tall, handsome and strong young man came over. There was a hint of calmness and sternness between his brows, his eyes were even deeper, and his expression was indifferent. "Brother Ma, what's the matter with you?" Guan Yuan asked slightly strangely, looking at Ma Benwei, who looked like he had just been beaten. Guan Yuan once wanted to cooperate with Ma Benwei in live broadcasting, but because Ma Benwei was afraid of Lu Chang'an, he and Guan Yuan only maintained contact, but the cooperation fell through. At first, Guan Yuan looked down on Ma Benwei, but later he came to understand. Just as Ma Benwei was afraid of Lu Chang'an, why wasn't he afraid of Sunangziu? When Guan Yuan came back this time, he was no longer what he used to be. He had grown a lot and was not so arrogant that he didn't take Lu Chang'an seriously. However, he had a new state of mind tempered by his experience. You, Guan Yuan, Ma Benwei made an appointment with Guan Yuan to meet here, but now Guan Yuan is completely different, especially the beard residue that is like black sesame seeds embedded in the pores, which is quite European and American. Tough guy demeanor. Long time no see. Guan Yuan stared at Ma Benwei with a deep tone. Who knows what he has been through these days? People who are used to seeing blood, darkness, and cruelty have lost all impetuousness and become extremely calm. Yet, Ma Benwei sighed with emotion, and smiled happily, I'm still doing the live broadcast. Come and say hello to the brothers in the live broadcast room. Brothers, this is an amazing figure. Nowadays, South America's underground emperor. Brother Ma, this is too exaggerated. At present, I have only established a firm foothold in Berlin. Guan Yuan looked at the barrage rolling in the live broadcast room, and suddenly felt nostalgic. He once thought about being a popular person. Anchor. There was an uproar in the live broadcast room. Many of the anchors you usually see are gangsters, but what kind of underground emperor? All the female bosses in Juncha were educated by a small Poza street police station and reborn. Some people even pointed out that Belém is in Brazil. When talking about Brazil, many people only know São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, Brasilia, etc. Belém is not so familiar as the capital of the state of Para, but crime here is very rampant, and mass murders by masked gunmen are basically a daily occurrence. It would be extraordinary to be able to gain a foothold in Belém. Don't believe it? I'll show you Brother Guan's daily life in Brazil. Ma Benwei took out another mobile phone and entered Guan Yuan's circle of friends, but there were only some photos of his daily life. He said in surprise, Brother Guan, what are you doing? Delete all the photos of working. The photos of gangster work, don't delete them completely, just waiting to get into trouble. Guan Yuan was not so naive. He kept those photos after entering the country just to show his prestige. Ma Benwei understood immediately and stopped asking further questions. He said to Guan Yuan, Brother Guan, today we will arrange a program and go to the bar in the evening. It is the kind of underground emperor return that is common in novels. In the bar, you meet someone who doesn't open your eyes. How about the plot of pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger? You don't need to deliberately arrange it, you will definitely meet people who are not impressed. When the time comes, you will show off your skills, and I will explain your true identity next to you, and the show will be explosive. Interesting. Guan Yuan nodded, someone else has made an appointment with me, so I'll be delayed for a while. You're busy? Ma Benwei smiled. What he just said was in front of the live broadcast room. Now it has completely exploded, and everyone is looking forward to it. At this time, a man and a woman came over. The woman hesitated for a moment, and then said to Guan Yuan after careful identification, Hello, Mr. Guan, I have made an appointment to meet you, Jin Xiaomei. Ma Benwei was a little emotional. Huan Yuan had really made his mark, and all the beauties who came to him were beauties of this level. However, the man next to him was a bit devilish. He was actually holding a long piece of jade and playing with it. Some words are clearly engraved on the jade. There is a dawn hanging on the east mountain, like Buddha bones and glass, with thousands of clouds. All kinds of requests. Today, I won a 400 yuan Zaiwa monthly ticket draw, so happy.